Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome back to the Pipeline Podcast. I'm your host today, Daren Mcclimans. Joining me today, we got the one, the only, the fabulous, the amazing co-host today, Connor. How's it going, Connor?
What's up? Glad to be here.
Welcome back.
Sorry I missed last week.
How dare you? The audacity of this one.
I
Everest
absolutely am
came
not
on
showing
and
up.
you were nowhere to be found. We're
No.
like, I don't know what happened. And we have very special guest, the one, the only, the fabulous Krypton Report, Tyler. How's it going, Tyler?
Hey guys, it's going well. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be part of this.
Hell yeah, man! It's like you're one of those like content creators on my page where I always see you comment things, and I was like, he seems like a really nice guy. I would love to have him on here, have a chat, and we're like, he might like Superman. I'm not really sure though.
Maybe a
It might
little
just
bit.
be.
A little bit.
Oh,
He could be thinking. I don't know.
We have
it's
the
one
Tyler
giant. It's one giant interactive art piece. It's one day it's gonna be like boom, surprise.
All right.
Love
It's
it.
really committed. Really committed. No, I appreciate it, guys. Like, I appreciate the chance to come on here and chat. It sounds like it'd be fun.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, no. This is something like this is one that Connor had pitched a couple months ago when like we thought maybe we were getting that Superman pick where like it's Superman's birthday and stuff like that, or like it's the anniversary where like maybe we're getting a suit. It took a couple more months to get that like official DCU David Corn Sweat official suit. And now that it's out, we're like, hey, it'd be really fun to look at all the suits from the past, present, and now even the future, which is, like Connor had sent over like a bunch of images this morning, and it was really cool just kind of getting to see like the evolution over the years of all the different suits and how the character has grown and how the audience has grown, and to see all the different people that have kind of been able to put themselves in those shoes. I mean, Tyler, obviously you're a big Superman fan. Do you just want to like quickly talk about like your history with the character? Like, where did that love start?
Sure.
Like, why do you love the character? What's your kind of history with him?
Sure, thanks. It's funny because I sit back like it's one of those characters that's kind of just in the consciousness. I think my first exposure to the character was I have a strong memory of a birthday of getting like a box of comics, and inside were the VHS tapes of the Max Fleischer cartoons. And I still have them on my shelf back there. So I think that's my first kind of understanding before I had a TV recorded version of Superman 1 and 2. And for the longest time, I didn't realize it was two separate films. Just it was dubbed from TV, and like, there's commercial breaks and stuff like that. And you set Zod up in the first movie, then he's later on. So like, it's my little kid brain, just one movie. And read the comics, watched the animated series and everything, and just really liked the character. And I think the thing is with Superman first, just really drawn to like power set and all that. But then as I got older, it was more of the character's heart and strength that I find more and more appealing. And of course, Superman Returns. I'm wearing that shirt today just for fun. I have a ton of Superman t-shirts, go figure. But that was the first one I got to see on screen, the big screen, properly. And we can dissect that movie all you want, but it'll always have a special place in my heart. Grew up watching Superman and Lois, and then of course Smallville comes along while I'm in high school, so it's even harder. Like, oh, Clark's on this journey, and I always joke because it starts him in high school, and the last episode of Smallville is when him and Lois are trying to get married. Well, that episode came out right like 2 months after my wife and I got married. So I go through this journey of high school, college, while this show's in the background. You know what I'm saying? So there's this kind of connection there, and it just kept growing. The more I read the comics, the more you dig into the character, and then of course now we have Superman and Lois, where Superman is a father with 2 kids. I'm a father of 2 kids, though mine aren't teenagers, but and then I have, you can't see it, but I have a copy of Convergence issue 1 signed by Dan Jurgens. And I told him when I got to meet him, I was like, what's crazy is the year that you birthed John Kent in the comics is the same year that my son was born. So it's like, so in the comics, it's Superman shifting to being a dad, like I'm being a dad in real life. And there's always just been this kind of element of the character of having a connection to the character. And, and yes, I don't
Yeah.
possess powers. I'm not an alien out fighting crime, but it's the moral compass and moral desire of the character that I find so appealing, and just the idea of doing good and being good. And Superman, we really want to get into the psychology of the character. He has trauma, but he's processed it differently, than some of the other characters and what they do. And I think that's the core to who he is just trying to be good for being good's sake. That gets lost, I think, in society. We can go whole deep into it, but it's just that's what I love about the character.
Yeah.
And with my job in life and what I deal with, just that kind of mentality I always reference and kind of pull from that. So that's my quick in a nutshell.
Cool.
That's amazing. I go ahead.
Sorry,
Connor, I'm
go ahead,
sorry. No, I was just gonna say, I think art comes that I think the way just with me and the way I consume art, I connect it so visibly to different eras of my life, and I can place oh, this time in my life I was watching this and this, and I can think back on that, and it seems like you have such a connection to the character that is so special. And I think what is so special about Superman is he is just a guy. He's doing the same things that we're doing. He's going to work, he's having kids, he's going on dates, he's doing all these different things, and seemingly the way that you're able to parallel those things, I think is really special, man.
Thank you. Yeah. There's a picture that I have. Well, I have a picture of a picture my mom took when I was little. I had Superman pajamas, and she had to sew me trunks to go over top of them. And there's a picture of me crying by the washing machine because she had to wash them. It was time.
No.
And I was like, God, I need to find that because I have it somewhere. Because I joke about it, I always had Superman stuff, and then there was that phase where I wasn't as connected, and a lot of that had to do with not having access as much to content. It was hard to people. There was a time before streaming, people, okay, or before everything was put out on DVD. They didn't put that much. You'd buy a VHS 3 episodes, something.
Sure.
3 episodes. Now we're the complete series on DVD, and you're so I also it was hard to find comic book stores. So that was, until I discovered that libraries kept comics, that was a that was an issue. And so there was a time that it wasn't as upfront because I didn't have access to stuff. I just knew what I knew, and then was able to find the sources and get back into it.
Oh yeah. Connor, do you have any kind of history? Obviously you have a history with the character, but what's your past with them?
It's interesting because a lot of the stuff Tyler talked about there, it's the exact same for me. I had the Fleischer cartoons on VHS growing up. I think the first time I saw Superman 2 was on a recorded VHS we had off of TV. Yes. Superman Returns means a lot to me because it's the year that came out. I didn't see it in cinemas, but the year it came out, all I wanted for Christmas that year was Superman Returns on DVD because I was it's new Superman film, it's new Superman film, it's new Superman film. And grew up with Smallville always on, always in the background. And it's just, it's the character's just always kind of been there in the background of my life. It's my favorite fictional character of all time, and I think he's just iconic. I feel the Superman symbol is the one thing in the world that might be the most recognizable symbol in the world, in terms of sort of fiction and stuff like that. It's just everybody knows what it is. You show that S, everybody knows what it is. But it's cool how similar it is.
No, I was just connecting with what you said. Is I wrote an article a couple years ago for the Daily Planet's. There is a actual website for the Daily Planet. It's a news source run by a friend of mine. I'll send you guys the link later. Sure. What I talked about is what you just said about the recognize the symbol and what the symbol means, because symbols have meaning and symbols have power. And the article was talking about people will get into religious symbolism and stuff like that. And I'm that's great. But there's a lot of religions that have hurt people as much as been good for people. Yeah. But it doesn't matter your religion, your belief system, whatever. The Superman symbol has a commonality of just being truth and good for all, and that's kind of why I like to wear it constantly. Look, I even had it tattooed on my chest right here. Okay.
That's amazing.
That's how much,
So cool.
And I actually on my arm here, I have my wife's name and a message for her in Kryptonian tattooed on my
Oh,
arm.
that's so cool.
So it was just something that I wrote as a positive piece of like why I wear it, you know, as for the character, but also because it represents something that I believe it would is being good for goodness sake. That sounds like a Christmas song, but you know what I'm saying. And to me, like, no matter, like, you can be a Superman fan of any religion, you know. And some because like when I was writing it, a lot of people are like, "Oh, well, what about, you know, I like this symbol." I'm like, "Well, that's great," but religious symbols will have different meaning for different people groups. But unless someone's just being a jerk, like no one can really come up and be like, "I hate the Superman symbol," like everything it stands for. I feel like that's just you know.
Yeah, for sure.
I can get on tangents. You'll have to
that's a really good point. I'm not like, I love Superman. I'm definitely not on the level of you guys as much, just because I haven't seen as much as I wish I have. But like, even from a young child, like I knew who Superman was. Like I would have like toys, and like I remember having like a pajama set that would have like the cape on the back, and like even from a young age, like I was introduced to the idea of Superman. And at that time, he wasn't my favorite hero or anything. I hadn't even seen anything for a very, very long time. And it was what the Arrowverse did, because I was, you know, that was like the big thing that got me kind of into superheroes and stuff like that. So like Tyler's version of the character is always going to be like one that really sticks with me. But I think what really did it was Smallville. Like I think Smallville was like being able to have spent, obviously I didn't spend 10 years with it. I binged it in the course of like a year, but having
it's a good year.
It's a good year. It is. But like having 10 seasons worth of one character will make you love, I would argue, pretty much any character. Like I think if you spend that much time with one singular character, you're going to fall in love with them. And I loved how much time they were able to spend on how good of a guy Clark Kent is. And then recently you have Superman and Lois, which is, in my opinion, again, favorite version of the character. Like that made me realize, like, oh, he is just like the best guy. Like he's everything you want the world to stand for and more, and he's just doing his best out there. And then you have like the My Adventures that recently came out that I also loved, and obviously Reeves, and so many different versions of the character that I just like gratify with in such a positive way of like, I want to be like them. Like I want to be able to stand even like an inch of what he stands for. And I think it's important to have characters like that. Like I think on TV and movies, and obviously I love fighting, I love, you know, violence and stuff like that. Like those type of movies and shows are always super fun and stuff like that. But I think it is still important to have wholesome TV shows, wholesome characters, wholesome movies, and I think Superman nails that almost every time. And I'm really excited to kind of pop on later on, and you know, once we kind of are able to rank all of these, obviously not characters, but the suits of all these different characters.
Absolutely.
But Tyler, we often like to kind of start our shows by talking about things that we watch throughout the week, media, video games, books, comics, whatever it may be. Connor, you weren't here last week. Is there anything that you watched within the last couple weeks that you'd like to talk about?
I've been rewatching Black Sails, which is absolute perfection of a TV show. I think it's so good. Seen a few films. I watched Challengers for the first time, which I loved. Watched The Fall Guy, which was also really good.
That's hopefully my weekend.
Oh yeah,
it's on my weekend. It's The Fall Guy, like our King. Those two is a weekend plan.
Cool. Yeah, no, The Fall Guy's really good. It's like
you see it.
It's you feel like you kind of know what film it's going to be, and then it kind of just does a lot of things you don't expect, and you're like, this is nice. I like when films do this. Saw Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which I also thought was pretty solid.
I was wondering, like, did he like it? Did he hate it? I was hoping
it was solid.
It. Yeah,
I didn't like as much of the trilogy, but I thought it was good.
It's weird because like, and we won't spoil it, so don't worry about that or anything. But I think it was okay. So I thought it was easily the weakest, but it might be my favorite in terms of just like the one I got to see in theaters, and just having that theater like experience was so much fun. Like just the pure, like it felt like what a blockbuster is. It was like, oh my god, these different set pieces. You're like edge of your seat the whole time. But I'm so glad I got to finally watch all those. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good. I mean, that's kind of it anyway. Like
Sopranos,
What are
right?
TV shows? Oh, I finished Sopranos a few weeks ago. Yeah, I forgot all about that. People talk about that ending, and I thought it was fantastic. I absolutely loved what they did with their final season. Yeah, I was a big fan of it. Like, immediately ended up on like my favorite shows of all time list. But yeah, that's kind of it.
Yeah, that's another show I've heard for years. I'm probably never going to watch it due to just so many other things, but I've heard for years and years and years and years how amazing it is.
Yeah, it's really good.
I watched a couple of things this week that I kind of want to talk about. I mean, we didn't talk about it. I didn't end up talking about it last week, but last week the new Doctor Who started, which was a really kind of fun experience just in terms of like, I'm really behind on Doctor Who, but it was a fun chance for people to be like, yeah, you can jump in now because this is kind of like the new season 1 or whatever. And
cool.
Kind of jumping into like, it's, you know, I'm still in like season 3 of like the 2005 run or season 4 or whatever. Yeah. So there was like this huge cultural shock to be like, whoa, it's changed a lot in like 15 years and seeing how it's evolved. And I love that actor. Like, I love him. Like the sex ed, thought he was amazing there. And like when that casting happened, I was like, oh, that's perfect. He's going to freaking kill that. Connor, did you start it or no?
Yeah, I'm all caught up on it. I think it's interesting. It feels very early Matt Smith to me so far, which is good. Like, I think the Matt Smith stuff is great. But I'm like, I am curious as to why they would use this season as season 1, because I feel like if this is your first Doctor Who season ever, like you've seen seasons of it, you know what to expect from the show. Yes. But for somebody coming into it who's never seen any Doctor Who before, I'm not sure if this is a season 1 where you'd be like, oh, I understand what they're doing here. Like, this feels like it's new. This feels like it's welcoming to me. It feels like something that's still sort of, you need to understand Doctor Who first before you sort of get into it.
There's a couple, like, there's been one thing where, like, they have, like, the, like, masters and stuff like that, where it's like, I don't quite 100% that. But also, I had a little bit of that, like, the 2005 show. Like, there are references and stuff that, like, hey, I don't know this particular character. I don't know this. And I do think it's a little fun to be like, I guess I'm piecing it together as I go, kind of thing. Yeah. The new season of Bridgerton came out, which is completely against like the like demographic of anything we talk about in here. But I do just think it's one of those shows that is kind of fun. Like every 2 years when they put out a new season, and be like, oh, that's a thing. And the only reason I kind of wanted to talk about it was just because I thought how weird it was that how they're splitting up the season this time.
Yeah, 2 parts.
Netflix is doing that a lot now.
Yeah,
but
oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say my theory is it all goes back to Stranger Things season 3.
Yeah,
because when that came out, think about that. If you guys remember, it dropped. Mm-hmm. Everyone binged over the holiday weekend, and then nobody talked about it ever again.
Yeah, it was over.
Hey.
So like their biggest flagship was like, okay. Mm-hmm. So I think now like that's what they're doing is they're like, okay, we want to keep our binge model so people can binge, but we're gonna split it up to keep our shows in the conversation.
Yeah, and
you're completely right.
And honestly, I'm kind of, and Connor, you might like disagree. I'm kind of okay with some shows. I think the issue is they have to be making more episodes with their shows. Like
that's my problem. Yeah, it's like they're parts, but they're 2 small parts, and then there's like months between them, and it's like you get 2 or 3 episodes in a month.
4 episodes not enough. I think you at least need 5 or 6. Like they need to start doing like 12 episode seasons. Do 6 episodes and 6 episodes. I think that'd work a lot better. But I think especially in terms of like Bridgerton, I think it's really weird because like they're like rom-coms kind of like they're like these love stories. I feel like splitting it up is they often feel like movies, so it's weird to just be like, oh, we're stopping here, and then it's like, okay, we've got to wait 2 months for whatever the second half. And it's like, I feel like that's the one show where like I would just drop it all at once, because I do think there are certain shows out there that do work on a binge model, and I think Bridgerton is one of them. And like with Cobra Kai, and like Connor, we had never actually talked about that when that news came out. I'm actually okay with like Cobra Kai doing their 5, 5, and 5. Like I think that template will work a bit better with a show like that, but I don't know, I just thought it was kind of weird.
It's like did you see if they're dropping like that 90s show, like the first part is next month and the second part's in October?
It's a long break.
I'm just like, I get splitting up a month, right? Like Bridgerton doing a month apart, but that's a very long time.
It's crazy long.
I also don't know if sitcoms work on streaming networks. Like, I'm kind of in the mindset that I think like it should be a network TV thing because
like they're weekly shows.
Yeah, they are weekly shows.
I had this discussion with my friends because I like you think structured, and if you like you're writing for a streamer, there's a different process of writing.
Yes,
of how you pace it.
Yeah.
And then you think about what a sitcom is. It's very much tooled to the network 3-camera style of filming.
Mm-hmm. And you have no time to fix it either. Like typically you would, if you have like a 20-episode season or whatever, like halfway through, you'd be like, okay, people aren't liking this, let's fix it now. And also like the binge model I don't think works for that stuff like that, because I think the fun of a sitcom is you have that weekly journey with those characters. It's like, all right, every Monday I'm here with freaking The Office or whatever, and like you don't care by the end of your binge model. You're like, okay, it's whatever. Spider-Man, I did start the 90s Spider-Man show for the first time over the week with X-Men 987 wrapping up. I've talked about that show way too much on here, but like loved that show. Like it's been my favorite things in a while. So starting that was a lot of fun. I don't even talk about it because not much happened within those first three, but I thought it was really fun. And Connor, The Walking Dead, finally, my final thing I want to mention on here.
Oh yeah, you're getting there. You're almost done.
When did I stop last time you were here, Connor? Was it season 9? Was that the last thing I talked about?
Last we talked about was end of season 9. Yeah.
Okay.
So we haven't talked about season 10, I don't think.
I didn't do season 10. I'm a quarter way through season 11 at this point, which is weird because when we started talking about this on here, I was like season 3 or whatever it may be. So it's been really fun. I'm kind of like I'm in a weird state with it because I'm kind of really excited to be done because it's been a lot. Like 11 seasons is a lot. It's a lot for on like the binge model. But also I'm getting like, oh, I'm a little sad. Like it's almost over. I shouldn't be because there's still like 17 spin-offs or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But you know, I am excited to kind of like get the end of that run. To say I finally finished that extremely long TV show. I liked season 9. I did not like season 10 that much, and I haven't really loved 11. I mean, 10 had some really fun stuff. Like, I did really love the COVID stuff a lot, or at least a bunch of those. Like, 2 of those episodes, and we had talked about, like, maybe I'd feel that way. 2 of my favorite episodes from the whole run. I thought it was really fun. And the season 11's also just been kind of meh for me so far.
Yeah, season 11 came at this weird period where they delayed filming for ages so that they could have as much of the cast together as possible when they could start filming. But I think early season 11 still feels very empty. Like, it still feels like a COVID season where it feels like, you know, you've got a lot of groups split up. You've got a lot of sort of, the locations feel very, I think the way early season 11 feels to me, the locations feel very CGI or green screen, as if they're very clearly not in locations they would have been in 2 or 3 years ago. Like now it's a lot of fakeness, like the early stuff, and I think it's like they're in a military base or something like that in the first episode of season 11, and it's a lot of like CGI shots, and it's at night time to hide a lot of things. It feels like a much more fake season, I think, than the rest of the show, which understandably they're trying to keep to the protocols and all of that, and they don't want to get shut down. But I think it does have an effect on season 11, unfortunately, and I think it's a noticeable effect. But I still think season 11, I think I preferred it to season 10. Just as a final season, it does feel a little strange.
Yeah. I do just want to ask, like, we don't have to like linger on this too long, but like, did they know when they started it was the final season, or was it like after that? Like after they started?
They did know, but I think there was a plan to get to season 12 until people started leaving the show. And then once they started losing cast members, they were like, okay, 11, we'll stop it at 11. And then we can do spin-offs so that we don't lose people like Norman or Melissa or stuff like that. Like, they'll stick around for their own shows. Cool.
All right. Tyler, do you have anything that you would like to talk about? Any movies or games or films or anything that you'd like to talk about?
So I have, jumping back to what you're talking about, I woke up at 4:00 in the morning with my wife and binged the 4 episodes of Bridgerton. She was counting down for that. And I had to go. We went to bed. We tried to go to bed, should I say, like at like 9. It didn't work. And then we woke up at 4 and watched it, and then I went on to work and everything. But because she's been counting down, we rewatched it all, beforehand over the past month and a half and everything. And when it ended, it was just like
she's like,
now. Yeah, she's like, now I wait a month. I'm like, yeah, okay. So we definitely talked about like that idea and like streamers, how they do that, but then they have these like Fallout. They're just like drop it all,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, I think Fallout would have worked as a weekly release, like Amazon's been doing.
Yeah.
So it's just weird what they pick to drop all at once and what they don't. This week, I kind of made the joke online the other day about like, you guys hear Christmas in July. I was like, what about Halloween in May? And I actually watched a movie I wanted to watch back at Halloween, but I was just in the mood for it. It was called Dark Harvest. You guys seen this?
I've heard about it.
It's on Amazon Prime. It's on Amazon Prime right now. If you're ever in the mood for like a fall feeling horror Halloween, little bit of a mystery movie, check it out.
Cool.
I liked it. And I started, since the beginning of May, we're rewatching all of Star Wars.
Oh, and
when I mean all of
really?
Star Wars, like my son is hooked in. We're doing like in chronological order, and so we're in the Clone Wars right now. Like we're watching all the Clone Wars episodes.
Wow,
cool.
Okay.
So he wants to do it all that way.
That's
so yeah,
fun.
that's an ongoing journey. So we've been watching
really
a lot
fun.
of that.
I still have not
watch.
seen everything. Yeah, I've like animation side. There's a lot I haven't seen, and like even like after the Phantom Menace came out a couple months ago or last month or whatever for the big anniversary.
Yeah, release.
Like they're like, I'm not even a big Star Wars guy, but like the environment in the theater after coming out and just like having all the kids running around like with their lightsabers and the hype of it all, like I kind of want to do it. Like I kind of want to go through it all, and I'll be like, oh no, I dropped that in like 2 weeks. There's no way I would get through it all.
Well,
but
that's the problem with the kids. They're like, if you guys get a chance to check out my social, we did. I think it's on Twitter, but it's on my personal Facebook page. We did a family. We waited on, was it Saturday night for sunset? And we went outside in the front yard dressed as Star Wars characters and had a giant family lightsaber battle.
Oh, that's so cool.
So like my wife did my daughter's makeup, like a homemade, real quick Ahsoka makeup. Oh, and then my son was like, he did his own like from Return of the Jedi, all in black. I was Darth Vader, and my wife was like makeshift Kylo Ren, real quick. So like we're all battling outside. So it was fun.
That's awesome.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much what I've been watching, honestly, because it's been so much just time with the kids.
Yeah, sure.
So much to watch. There's so much out right now. It's
hard
to
keep
up with everything.
There's too much. It's overwhelming sometimes. Like,
it's a lot.
There's so much to watch. I watch nothing because there's too much to watch.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's it.
You default back on what you know.
Exactly.
You're like, oh, there's so much. You're overwhelmed. You're like, you know what? I'm just gonna rewatch this again.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
that's why I'm on Black Sails again.
Good.
I'm like, too much.
Alrighty, we're gonna be hopping into a couple of news stories today. Connor, the ongoing train that is the Sony Spider-Verse is an interesting
they never
one
stop
for sure.
with that universe.
Updates on the future of the Spider-Man TV at Amazon have been released this past week. Now, over the last couple weeks, we actually had 2 separate updates about what's happening over there at Amazon. The first being Spider-Man Noir, where Nicolas Cage is officially signed on for the Spider-Man Noir TV show.
Superman Lives Nicolas Cage. That
one, I suppose. Connor, were you here the last time that we kind of talked about like the Spider-Man Noir stuff, or was
I don't
that
think so.
one you were not?
I wasn't. I don't think I've talked about the announcement, like the casting or like the stuff they brought out about it or anything like that. Really at all.
Okay, what's your kind of opinion on just a show in general that Nick is officially on board with the show? We're getting him in live action. What's your kind of take on all this?
Well, it's interesting because Nick, I think 2 years ago, he mentioned after one of his recent films, he was like, I really, really, really want to get into TV. He's like, like TV people start sending me your pitches because I'd love to be in a TV show soon. And I think Spider-Man Noir is going to be his first proper TV project where he's kind of like headlining it, which is really cool. And I think it's a really interesting idea for a TV show. Like it could end up being this stylistically cool thing that we always look back on and are like, that was such a random comic book property to get its own TV show, but it turned out really, really, really good. That it comes out being just this impressive stylistic sort of powerhouse of filmmaking sort of show, which I think is really exciting. I'm interested to see what exactly they do, because I saw some people point out that they were very sort of coy not to mention Spider-Man itself in any of the press releases or any of the official sort of talks coming from any of the producers or the directors or writers or whoever's working on it. They've all just said like it's based on the Spider-Man noir property,
Mhm.
but all the like the official descriptions they're using are just calling it Nicolas Cage is an older version of a hero that's in
Sure.
this noir world. So people are wondering if it's a case of they're not technically going to
Mm.
be allowed to say it's Spider-Man, which is weird because it's Sony.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens there, but it's interesting. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting, and I honestly, and I like. There's been a lot of people who are like, it sounds like another show. It doesn't even sound like a Spider-Man show, and I think yes, that might be true. I kind of like the idea that like superhero shows and movies can be other things besides just your like traditional superhero movies. That's very cool. But yeah, there is definitely that worry of like, but will it ignore everything about Superman? Like, will it just be a product of like a detective show, but we put Spider-Man in the title because that will bring people to watch it or whatever? There's also just a question is like, is this a Spider-Verse spinoff or is this kind of its own separate thing? Like, is this in the Sonyverse? They still have not said if these shows are set in the Venom whatever universe. Tyler, do you have any thoughts on like all of this?
My first thought was, as I was reading, okay, cool, and then I saw it said live action Nicolas, and I was like, whoa, that just changed everything.
Yeah,
I thought the
Yeah.
original pitch for this Spider-Man was going to be an animated thing, because Nick Cage has done that, and then I thought, okay, this is going to be even more interesting if Nick Cage actually as the character, and I'm wondering if they'll do something where it's like Spider-Man crossed with like a Sin City. Like if they'll go that kind of noir, you know what I'm saying? That visuals, that's kind of what I have in my head compared to just doing it more like shooting it very dark, and making it like, but actually doing kind of like the Sin City vibe that we thinking about what we got from the Spider-Verse. I'm interested, and I agree with that. Like where you're like looking at the description and you're like, okay, are they dancing around it? But I'm like, why wouldn't you be able to say it's Spider Noir instead of Spider-Man Noir? You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't make sense. I hate when they try to sell you something that it's this, but it really isn't. I won't bring up any recent films that did that, but we'll let it be. So I'm always going to err on the side of optimism and hope that it's going to be something good. Now, as we get, scenes back and we start to actually go into production and we can discuss it. But right now, I think it's a cool idea of like Spider-Man set in a very, not like the past, but like a future past kind of thing.
Noir, so, like retrofuturism.
It's in present day. It's like their present day, right?
Yeah,
it's like,
but it's like 1950s aesthetic, but for them it'd be like 2024 or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
So I always think that's a kind of a cool concept idea.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we'll see, but I'm in.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely excited for it. But there is always the fear, like there's been a lot of TV shows in the past of like it's like trying to duplicate like the success of a brand that they're not allowed to get into. Like Gotham Knights came out last year. I actually personally had a lot of fun with that show, but it was very much it had a hard time because it couldn't use all the characters that it clearly needed to use to make it, they're kind of trying to fill in those gaps in other places. There's a lot of examples of shows and movies that have done that. I am a bit scared of like doing a Spider-Man show without Spider-Man. That could be concerning. But I hope they let the show ride. Like obviously I think, I don't know, like I feel like this is the direction that I would want Sony to go with their Spider-Man projects. Like me and Connor talked about this. Yeah, like Spider-Man Noir. Yeah, that's much better. We're actually using an actual spider character, hopefully, instead of like the Venoms and Craven and stuff like that.
And you're getting the voice actor, so even if it's not directly from Spider-Verse, there is that connection that you can make.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think doing this as a Spider-Man series is kind of, if you do it as a Spider-Man, is the right move because it is Spider-Man, but it's not your flagship Spider-Man. So it's not tarnishing anything the movies would do. And it's not a character that's obscure. Like, because it is, but it isn't at the same time. Because you're like, oh, this is a Spider-Man, but it's like a very noir Spider-Man from a different. Okay, cool. Compared to other characters they've tried to sell us on that are very only tangentially really connected in people's mind. Not us who know the comics, who've experienced it in other media, but just from a layman's point of view. Like, okay, this is Spider-Man set in a weird noir time. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, man.
And then we also had the Silk news that came this week. Now the Silk show is not picked up not picked up at all. And apparently there was some drama around it. Apparently they wanted it to focus on other characters outside of Silk itself. Connor, are you upset that Silk isn't happening, or you kind of don't care?
I mean, I'm upset because the showrunner they had for it was Angela Kang, the person who revitalized Walking Dead in season 9, like the person who changed the direction of the show. Like, I was really excited for her because she's a good showrunner. She's clearly shown that she can handle big, high budget shows before. I was like, the idea of a Silk show at Amazon that really is formatted like a TV show, then I guess how Disney Plus, for the most part, before now, was approaching their Marvel shows, I think it was really exciting. It kind of reminded me of like the Netflix Defenders days or the Runaways, Cloak and Dagger, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. days, where it's these shows that are still Marvel, still Marvel heroes, and they're just clearly well-done TV shows that are in different parts of the universe or different parts of the multiverse or whatever. So I was excited for it. I think it also had the chance of being something different. But yeah, I mean, like, they could have just said it was not going forward for other reasons, for budget reasons, for casting reasons, whatever. They didn't have to come out and say that the reason it wasn't going forward was because they were getting rid of or because they were using too much Silk. Like, that's not how you sort of, deal with something like this. You don't say that you're canceling a show because it had too much of the titular character.
But I mean, too often do we see people get involved in projects where there's something about it that they're, oh, that's cool, but I want to make it this.
Yeah.
And completely take it from the character and what it really is. And they start to turn it into something else. And I'm like, why did you even do the show? Like,
exactly.
Silk, for example, is it could have been a really great show that stands on its own, that's tangentially spider related, and you have to have a strong show to really hook people because the character itself is not what's going to hook people.
Sure, yeah.
But the idea of the show is what could get people to interested. And I think maybe they thought it was one of the reasons it's too far out there. Like, it's like so far removed from the Spider series that people are like, I don't know who this is.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It was one of those that, like, I was interested because it's a character I don't know a whole lot about.
Yeah.
That, like I said, they could have made it to a really great show where I'm not, because how many comic book shows do you go into having knowledge and you don't enjoy the show for what it is because you keep thinking about the comic stuff for what it could be.
Yeah.
And then you went into this just kind of like, I'm just going to take it for what it is. Is it a good show or not? And they just didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah. I also am wondering, and Connor, we've talked about this a lot on here, but like, is Sony kind of trying to like fix shop a little bit? Like, I do think Madam Web was probably a big warning sign for them to be like, oh, okay, maybe this isn't the direction we want to go. So maybe it's them being like, all right, what do we want to do going forward? And I think like Nicolas Cage as a Spider-Man, like I think that's a very safe option. Like, I feel like people are going to tune in for that. Everyone loves Nicolas Cage. Everyone loved his characters in Spider-Verse. That's good. With Silk, like you were saying, like, I do think there's a bit from what I've heard from people, like, Spider-Man is a big part of Silk's story. If we're not allowed to use Spider-Man, can we still tell the story? And I would personally rather you stop it here, before we really get going, way before you're filming, way before you have to have rewrites and fix things up there, and you either cancel the movie or you put out the movie that's just really bad and everyone hates. Like, I think the best option here is to end it while you're ahead and then focus your money and your resources and your talent elsewhere. So I don't know. Like, it's sad because I wanted to see these shows happen. Like, I loved the idea of getting more non-MCU Marvel projects. I love the MCU, but I like the idea of having some other stories that aren't exactly set in that universe. But I'm excited to see where one of these goes at least, and maybe we'll get other shows in the future. I'm not sure.
I mean, I think Sony are panicking. I think Madam Web and Morbius both did nowhere near what they expected them to do. They're ending the Venom films. I know the Venom films do the best out of the Sony Marvel stuff, but they're ending the Venom films after the new one. Craven is delayed till after Venom now, but I think Craven's going to officially be the last Sony Marvel film, since we have no other ones that are still kind of in development, I don't think. And then like Silk being cancelled has no connection to anything else. The only Marvel Sony project that's moving forward is the one that's tied to Spider-Verse. Like, the one that is tied to a project they know worked and made them money and was successful critically and financially and all that sort of stuff. So I think they're going back to what they know, which is taking a character that was already successful and already had an established name tied to it, like Nicolas Cage, who's going to bring in faces who might not be watching it otherwise. So
it makes sense.
It would. Yeah. It's going to be interesting these next couple of years. Like, as the show goes forward, and I know Phil and Chris Miller are now the head of like the Sony Spider-Man TV part of things, which to me that's very exciting.
Yeah, good sign.
They waited too long to do that. Like, they should have brought them in at an earlier stage with the films and stuff to help build this. We could go into it forever, but I have so much to say of like just like how you could have done their spider film connections.
They did it horribly.
There's ways to do it without Spider-Man, but you could still do something. And I have pitches and ideas, but they just waited too long to make that course correction.
I agree. I mean, if I were them, I would make this new like Nick Cage. Like I'd be like, all right, that's a new chapter 1. Like, let's start here. Let's scrap everything that came before. New start. Let's go.
It could be great. Like, if they did that, they could be looking at something that sort of revitalizes a lot of people's love in Marvel at the moment. Like, I think, because the MCU, it's still extremely popular, but there's obviously a little bit of a dip in the popularity. And I think something like this that is different but really good would do great for kind of getting people wanting comic book properties again.
Yeah, I would agree. I think, like, my only, like, concern with that, like, there was the rumors that, like, the staff was like being like overworked and stuff, and like that's a situation where if you can clear that up, if you can like do better by your staff and stuff like that, then I love everything that they make. So I think I'm very excited to see where that goes. All right, we have 2 more stories here I do want to talk about. Superman. We had some Superman super world, I guess, things that come out this week. Supergirl film gets a summer of 2026 date, while Superman Lois moves to Thursday this fall. So let's talk about the Supergirl one. Connor, this came out last week, but I was like, I'll wait for you to be here for it to talk about this. So this is just 1 year after the Superman movie comes out. This is exactly 1 year after. Are you happy with this date?
June 2026, I think, isn't it? So like 11 months after Superman.
11 months, yeah.
No, it's really exciting. So I think that this confirms then that the first 2 films will be Superman and Supergirl, because which is interesting, because they've been really coy about where Millie's Supergirl is going to be showing up after in the DCU before Supergirl. Like, James Gunn has never officially said it's Superman that she was showing up in, but everybody just kind of went, it's Superman. I was like being really contrarian to that and being like, it might be Waller. She might be like the secret character in Waller. But I think it's clear now Waller's not going to be out before Supergirl. So I think, unless she's in Peacemaker, which I highly doubt, then it's probably Superman she's actually going to be in. Which that's interesting then.
It's weird because they said Waller comes out first. Like, Gunn said like Waller takes place prior to Peacemaker season 2. But I'm like, they're already working on Peacemaker. How does that work?
Yeah. Unless they go straight into Peacemaker filming Waller because it uses similar characters.
It could do that.
The way he had talked about before was like it was going to be like Peacemaker 1.5, but that may have changed.
Yeah.
I would just love it if she appears in Peacemaker, like at a scene of like they're in like Waller's place and like her pictures like on the computer screen.
That's like
or something, and that's our tease. And like, to me, it would not make sense for her not to appear like in a post-credit scene or something where it's just Superman interacting with her or something.
Yeah.
To tee up that movie. Like it writes itself. You know what I'm saying? Like,
exactly. Yeah.
How else, like, your audience that's going to come back for that film is sitting there right there.
Yeah.
And not having her appear in some small capacity, just walking out or something and talking to her, her cousin, to set that up would not be smart.
No, yeah, you're completely right.
Yeah, I definitely also think it's interesting having those two be like the back to back. Like personally, I love it. Like I think
After
Superman
too
fans are
much
finally getting
Batman
their
for too
due.
long.
Yeah, no, I love it. It's definitely interesting though. Like I think like in a world like maybe I would have split them up just a little bit just to show like
Sure.
the different all the different characters that they're going to be kind of setting up in this world. But as a Superman fan, it is cool just to have like how much Superman content we're getting. Like Superman Lois starts in the fall. We'll talk about that in a second. The animated show starts in literally like 3 days.
Yeah.
Like that's still going on. We got these 2 movies coming out. Like there's just so much Superman content right now to keep us occupied. It's great. I love it. It'll be fun to just have 2 back-to-back summers of like Superman content.
Yeah. Yes, it would.
And then in terms of Superman and Lois, moving to last couple seasons, it was Tuesday nights. Now moving to Thursday nights. Not a lot here, but I did just kind of want to throw it up as another thing to come out. Are we anyone upset about this? Anyone worried about the move? Or are we all happy?
In Ireland, it doesn't change anything. I got to see it the next morning anyway, no matter what.
Gotcha.
I'm just gonna buy it like I do every year on Apple and just watch it when it drops. Now instead of watching it, Wednesday mornings, I'm gonna watch it Friday mornings. And my wife and I watch it together, so sometimes we don't even get to watch it right after it drops. We make it a priority, but to me, the CW is already in the toilet.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Walker came out this week. Yeah.
So I mean, they're already like they were selling those shopping shows, and they completely changed up what they were as a network.
Yeah,
and we know this is the last season. 10 episodes. So I don't care what night they put it on because we're going to get those 10 episodes.
Yeah.
I'm going to buy it digitally and then I'm going to buy it physically. So that doesn't change for me. Yeah. I'm not like fighting ratings, hoping the show gets renewed. No, we know that it's this is it. Yeah. So it's like, whether, as long as it's not on Friday night, because Friday nights, like we think the demo, because a lot of times, here you think Friday nights in the fall, so many kids are playing, like there's the ball game, but then that's also the band. So there's a lot of kids involved in that part of the target demographic of the show. So Thursday at least gives it a reprieve of not being, kids out. But I don't care what night it is. I just want to know what day it comes out.
That's what I'm wondering.
Is it September, October? What are we looking at here?
I'm going to guess October.
Yeah.
Because it always feels like the CW started their fall lineup in October.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You go back and
like
stuff.
Circle. Yeah.
So I'm leaning towards October. I will love it if it's September, but October's when my brain is,
Yeah.
So
sure.
Yeah.
CW just confuses me because like since COVID, they've been so all over the place with their releases. Like Stargirl season 2 started in August, I think. Like they sometimes start in really
it was like late summer. It was like late summer. Yeah. So I saw someone break it down. Like if they started it here in October, 10 episodes, it would get right up to Christmas.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Before, it would be done before the new year. So it would just kind of end. So I'm okay. I totally buy that.
Yeah,
buy it.
That'd be fun. Yeah, I mean, of course, like I really like watching these shows live. Like it's been like a tradition for me for so many years, all the way back to Flash season 3. And there's like there is just a sadness, like, oh, this is the last one I can do this with. Like genuinely the last network show I am watching. Like I'm not watching any other like network stuff. And if I do, not live for sure. So this is definitely like an end of the era for me. For like the CW, obviously like the last DC show. This is their only like scripted show inside the fall. Like everything else is like golf and all whatever the heck they're doing. They canceled Walker. Stupid decision. I don't understand buying a network and axing everything that made the network that network. That's stupid. Like you had a built like say what you want about the CW and the quality of shows. They had a built-in fandom. Like each of those shows had their built-in.
They were loyal,
would support them no matter what. Walker, one of their most popular shows, like that. Say what you want about the Arrowverse, had a huge built-in fandom. People
huge following.
Love that stuff on streaming. Say what you will. Supernatural, they had the spinoff that had its cult following. Like you have all these different things, and they're just burning it all to the ground. And I think it's such a silly way. And it's just like, well, I'd give it a year. I can't see it making it past like the next year.
I think they're going to rebrand. I think they're not going to be the CW anymore. They'll change their name to something else.
But then what's the point? Yeah. Why buy it? Make a new network at that point.
No, you're very right.
Exactly.
It's silly.
But I do miss the live aspect. It's like the pilot I got to watch live for the pilot of Superman and
Dude.
Lois, and that was one of the most fun experiences, just because
The shock factor. Yeah.
Well, the shock factor and the content we're watching, but like people messaging me like, "Oh my god!" Like you
Yeah,
said, and then like
Yeah.
my friend called me on the first commercial break, and and then like we were talking, and like it came back on. We hung up the phone. Like there was an energy to that, and
There was.
and it's hard to do that when on streaming stuff.
Yeah.
But
it's not the same.
That was such a like a special moment, because it was like such a kick in the balls to everyone that like hated CW stuff, where it's like, oh, the new Superman show, it's going to suck. We don't like the trailer. It came out, and it was just like one of the best pilots I've personally ever seen.
Yeah.
Like the way that it, like, I love the other CW stuff, but like that pilot blew away anything I've ever seen. From
I'm an Arrowverse ride or die,
They-
and the Superman Lois quality was insane. I was not expecting something of that quality. I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
They spent the money on it to give it a high,
Yeah.
because I guess it was supposed to be a CW like Max joint.
Yeah.
So like they were both, putting money into it to help pump it up. And of course, we all wish it would have just gone to Max and got that type of budget. But I always had a prediction. I thought we'd get 5 seasons with the writer's strike and and how everything happened. Because I always had a prediction that they would end Superman and Lois before James Superman. I even said it on an episode, like I always had that kind of prediction in the back of my head, because they would want to, because they're wanting to like do a whole reboot thing. So I always had that prediction that they would try to, especially when Gunn came out and was talking about his DC and how he wants animation and everything to be more streamlined and all together. Even though he did say the Elseworlds thing, I still had that feeling like, it's going to get like one more and be done. But
yeah,
that's kind of what they do with Flash. Like it ended the month before the movie came out.
Yeah, it did.
So funny.
And we could talk about Flash because I love the Flash.
Yeah.
When they got their new showrunner, that's really when the quality dipped. And I don't like to talk bad about anybody, but I also rewatched Teen Wolf, and when he took over in Teen Wolf, that's also when that show dipped. That's 2 for 2, buddy, of shows that start really good.
I think it rose for a second. I think like for a second I was like, oh, maybe it's better, and it's like, oh no, it went further down than it was prior to that switch up.
I think that was the Crisis bump, where everyone was like putting all of their effort into making sure the lead up to Crisis was good.
I loved season 6. I still love season 6. It's one of my favorites. But all right, we have one final thing, and this one might take just a quick second, because I want to do a bit of a speed round. So over the last couple weeks, there have been a lot of huge MCU updates, especially when it comes to their Disney Plus TV shows. A couple of things with the movies I do want to quickly talk about. There is a couple here, so I don't want to spend too long on each one. So we're just going to speed around some of these. Connor, Vision Quest moving forward for 2024.
Yeah, and
the show is still happening. Yep. Paul Bettany is back. Are you happy the show's still happening? Or are you shocked? Speed round.
I mean, I'm shocked. Yeah, I completely thought the show was dead. I was like, there's no way they're making it. It's they haven't talked about it in 2-3 years. But yeah, Terry Matalas, showrunner, really exciting. He did Star Trek Picard, and Star Trek Picard season 3 was one of my favorite seasons of television I've seen in recent memory. Big fan of it. Yeah, I'm excited.
I'm excited. I'm shocked. I did not think it was still happening. All right, next up, what if will be the next? Wait, sorry. Go ahead.
I don't
you have thoughts? You have thoughts? You have thoughts? Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You're good, man.
I'm sorry.
I was my friend and I. We drove 4 hours to a con this past weekend, and as we went through, we talked about the MCU. We went movie by movie about the past 2 phases, phase 4 and 5. Just kind of broke stuff down, and we brought up Vision twice. And we're like, "What's going on with this character?" So the fact they brought this, I'm like, "Cool," but do I want a series or would I just like a one shot? I'd be okay with going back to like these 40-minute one shots.
The features, they're really good. Or the special presentations.
Back just like Werewolf by Night and the holiday special. Bring that back. I don't know if I want to invest in a whole Vision series, but we'll see. You know,
could not agree more.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like, I don't need a series. I'm happy because I love Vision. I'm curious where that goes, but I would even throw him in like someone else's project, like a Young Avengers or something like that, as like a mentor character or something. I don't know.
Just put him in Agatha. Have it be like a WandaVision spin-off properly, dealing with both of that stuff. Or
we've talked about in the past, just do WandaVision season 2 at that point. Like, if you're giving all these characters like Vision and Agatha, and you had Monica, right? She had stuff going on with her. Just do it season 2. Just do it all in one project. Having 3 separate ones do be a lot. Okay. What If will be the next animated show to come out. We thought maybe Black Panther would be first. We thought maybe Spider-Man would be first. Season 3 of that show. Anyone excited? We shocked that this is going to be like the next one to come out.
I'm just gonna say I like What If to a point, but at the same time, I'm not over the crazy about it. It just really is a what if this, but it's like my buddy Brian, he posed it as they're asking what if, but no one's asking the what ifs that we care about.
Exactly. That's my problem with it.
And that's how I'm just gonna leave it right there.
And like I would also say after it sucks that it's coming out right after X-Men, because like that's going to shoot itself in the foot. Like X-Men is potentially one of my favorite things Marvel's ever done, and it upped the bar for what Disney Plus needs to be doing, in my opinion. Like I think the MCU does it a lot more. Like I like the MCU, and then they put out a project that's really good. It was like, oh well, maybe what was coming out wasn't so good, because they proved there what you can be doing. And I'm way more excited for Black Panther and Spider-Man. I like What If as well, but I'm not like, it's fine. If it never came back, I wouldn't be upset. I feel like. Connor, do you have any thoughts on that?
No, just exact same as Tyler. Like it's the what ifs are never the interesting things. Like everybody was theorizing what the what ifs would be before season 1 came out, and it was like, just all these really cool, interesting ideas that would change everything with what characters in so many different sort of spots and interactions. And the actual episodes came out, and it was just kind of whatever. Like it's and even I feel like the episodes that do pose interesting what ifs never go far enough. Never go far enough where they should. Like it feels like they always kind of do the generic thing of it's just random Marvel characters getting killed one after the other because it's what if. I am surprised. Well, not really. I guess surprises after X-Men, because I guess we saw the post credits or the trailer that came out after season 2, so we knew it was pretty far along, and they took such a big gap between season 1 and season 2. They probably don't want a gap that long again. So yeah.
They also just said that this is the final season, which actually kind of shocked me a little bit, because I was like, oh, maybe they could have done more, kind of leading up to the Secret Invade or Secret Wars and stuff like that. But this will be the final season, so that'll be a wrap up on that show. We had some Daredevil news this last week. Actually, a couple of things. We'll talk about them kind of here. Vincent said that the original Daredevil show they were making had no connections. He said 0 connections to the original show, and now that they have rebranded it, it has tons of references and cameos and stuff from the original Daredevil show. Tyler, are you a fan of like Daredevil's character, or even like the Netflix show they put out? Are you excited for this new one?
I am. I like Daredevil.
Yeah.
The other day I went to get my wife a drink from the gas station, and I got 2 Cokes, came back with Doctor Strange for her, and I got the Guardian Devil. So I really enjoyed the Netflix show. It's one I've been actually wanting to go back and rewatch all the way through.
Same, yeah.
So it made no sense to not connect it to that, even tangentially. Like it did not need to be completely rebooted. We like this character, we like everything that's come with it. So the fact that they're doing this, and even like they teased Daredevil and Echo, that one scene, just to kind of grab people's attention.
Really good.
Say what you want with the whole She-Hulk thing, but there is a audience for this character.
Yeah.
So now it's even more exciting because you've already built up D'Onofrio's Kingpin using Hawkeye, Echo, and now he's properly in, with Daredevil. And, of course, everyone lost their mind during Spider-Man when Matt Murdock was there. Yeah. So it's like, why would you not keep the show's legacy? It doesn't do you any harm. Like, we don't have to completely always reboot from square one.
Yeah.
It just gives you thickness to your character and the world that they inhabit. So,
yep, I agree. It's still so strange to me with that. Like, I defended that like OG run. I was like, guys, they're not gonna let Daredevil fans down. Like, I kept saying, like, they know how important that show is. They're not gonna screw up. It's like, oh, they properly screwed up. So now I'm saying the same thing again with this new run, that I now hope that they know what they're doing. It seems like they're trying to do that show justice. We also found out that season 1 will come out March of 2025 and will now have 9 episodes opposed to its original 18 count. Yeah. Connor, we talked about this a good bunch. Are you shocked at all that we're only getting 9? Are you happy with the date?
No, I've been saying for a while, ever since we found out that it's now they're calling it a 2-season show, like it's gotten a season 2 renewal already, that it's
9 and
likely
9. Yeah.
the original 18 episode run split into 2 episodes, and that they're just
Yeah.
kind of redoing a lot of the storylines or the stories or the episodes or whatever with the new kind of connections put into them. Like we know that the whole Punisher storyline that they're using now was very similar to the Punisher storyline in the original 18 episode show, so it feels like it's pretty much going to be the same show but redone to match the original Daredevil show more. Which I'm not surprised about the Vincent's comments about the connections, just because we heard a lot from behind the scenes people saying that, like, when they were originally filming the original version of Daredevil Born Again, a lot of them were talking about how it's a soft reboot, you know, it's a new version of the show and all that sort of stuff. Don't expect too many connections. So I'm not surprised about that. I'm just happy that they finally figured out that was not the right decision, and to actually capitalize on the fact that Daredevil is likely still the most popular Marvel television show of all time. So, like live action at least.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I'm happy. I'll take 9. Like, it's better than the 6 and the 7s that we've had. If I can get 9 to 50-minute episodes, I'm happy. That's what I've been asking for. Like, obviously 18 sounded cool and I would have been okay with it, but I'm also okay. Like, eventually I'd love for you to branch out and do longer seasons, but this is being your first show with a proper showrunner and show Bible and stuff. Like, I'm okay starting small. Do 9, make sure it's good, and then other shows forward. If you bring back other shows or whatever, maybe you can do 10 or 13 or whatever it may be. Along with that date, we learned that Ironheart will also be 2025. We don't have a date in terms of that show. Anyone excited for the Ironheart show? Anyone have any hype still in them?
So Ironheart's the first Marvel property where I've pretty much said I don't have any interest in it.
Yeah.
Sure.
I feel like the character was very forced into Wakanda Forever.
Mm-hmm.
And wasn't this show like filmed a while back and was just sitting there?
I thought it was a trailer 2 years ago. People saw the trailer like a year and a half to 2 years ago, so it's been a while.
So I really feel like it's one of those, like, are they just kind of dumping it now? Like, are they just going to be like, here's a prediction, will it be one that we'll just get, boom, all episodes? Kind of like what they do with Echo, like all episodes one day.
Yeah.
Because are they, like, didn't they scrap the Armor Wars show?
It's a movie now. Yeah, it's a movie.
Okay. Because I was looking up what's supposed to be coming and I didn't see it, but
it's not on like the production table. I think it's maybe after Secret Wars, perhaps, but I don't know.
Marvel just says things now. They just announce projects and then you wait 7 years and then they go, "Oh yeah, it's still coming. Don't worry."
So I'm just like at a point with Ironheart. I'm like, I don't really have a connection to this character. It felt out of place in Wakanda Forever. Like it was just shoehorned in there.
Yeah.
And is anyone asking for it? Will it? I mean, it could come out and surprise me. Like I usually try to watch at least the first episode of things.
Sure.
But the trailer will have to impress me enough for me to do that, because right now I don't have an interest in it. So
I personally liked her in Black Panther 2. I think the issue is, though, like, you're right, like, it's kind of had like that Fantastic Four issue where it's been too long without any updates, without any footage. Like, I'm tired of talking about it without anything. And where even stuff like Blade and Fantastic Four has an advantage. It was like, I actively know those characters. I actively like those characters. So there's that hype there, where this one, I don't know anything about this character. Not really. Like, I liked her enough in the movie, but is it enough? I think the only thing kind of carrying me over is I do think it'll be set up for like the Young Avengers. I think there'll be a lot in that show. So I do think that's why they're not getting rid of it. Like, I'm glad they're not, because I never think you should do that. I think you make a show, you put it out. But I think because it's a Young Avenger, I think Agatha's the same thing. I think that's going to be a big show, which we'll talk about in just a second here. But that's a show. I think both are setting up for larger things. With Agatha, a September 13th date with the new official title, Agatha All Along. Which I don't know about you guys. I called the like fake title thing like a year ago at least. Like, oh, every 6 months it's a new title on the internet. Be like, this is stupid. And I was like, they're clearly doing the thing where she's tricking all the fans until you get the real. Like, it felt like, to me, that felt very obvious. But I guess a lot of people didn't think so. I don't know.
I think because they announced the show like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, and then we got the fake title and the change. And I think had we have gotten the series sooner, I think we would have been on board. But I think because of just the time frame and like, is it coming? What is it?
Yeah.
I just think people lost interest and
So
just
that's
did,
fair.
and we're like, what? They're changing it again because they stepped out of the
Yeah.
joke because
Yeah.
you took too long to get to the punchline.
Sure.
No,
You
exactly.
know?
Like I think I've got a couple opinions on the whole Agatha thing. Like I think you're dead right there, where it's they took far too long. But I think the
I
internet
agree.
also has this issue where if you announce a project and take too long to release it, people start getting annoyed when they're just hearing about it every
Updates, yeah.
other month. Like when you're hearing a new Agatha title change every 6 months for 4 years, you get annoyed. You're like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
why do I care? Where is the show? But it's also, do we think that this show is only getting made because the Agatha song went viral, like very briefly when WandaVision came out? Like, is that the reason they're making this? Because that's
I mean,
such a flimsy reason to.
I think the real reason is like I think they said, "Hey, make a bunch of Marvel shows," and they're like, "Well, who do we
Sure.
got?" The Agatha show, like that character's pretty popular. Let's give her one. And I'm actually personally really.
But is she
excited for this
popular?
show. She was. Well,
That's the thing.
Was
Everyone was
she?
kind of hooked
Yeah.
and interested in her. It was like that peak
Yeah.
of interest. Like, okay, what is
Yeah.
this? Who is
Yeah.
we like the actress? She was like actually at a high point.
Yeah.
Like, and it was at that time, like you said, where they were wanting to make a bunch of stuff. Everything was kind of
Yeah.
greenlit for Marvel. They were trying to expand, but now we see that they've rescinded that, and it feels like Ironheart and Agatha are both two products
Yeah.
that were lit by a past regime. You know,
Yeah.
if you get into like, you know, now that there was I can't remember his name, but now Bob Iger is back and things are changing.
Yeah.
And they just are like they have it.
They have
So
to
they're
put
like,
it out
okay.
now. Yeah.
But you know, I don't. If you were to look at it now, I don't think you would get greenlit. But I think it was
Yeah.
just it was
100%,
greenlit, and then you had all these stumbling blocks to get it done,
Mhm.
and here it is. You know.
Yeah, it's like those two are definitely two I look at where again I'm excited for both on like at least a basic level. But like if you're like, hey, get rid of like two Marvel projects, those are probably the two I'm getting rid of just in terms of like what they're going to do. And again, I think both are setting up big things. And I think like it sucks now because like now there's a big conversation about like not taking as much chances like within the MCU and stuff. And like Agatha's a massive chance. Like
It's a big
no
one,
one in
yeah.
their right mind would do it now. And there's part of me that's like, well, that's what I kind of like. I like when you do these like really baller ideas. And I would love if like with all the hate over the years, it came in here and was like, yeah, this is like the best MCU show or something like that. Like I think that'd be really cool. And like I like it's a musical. Like that's a fun idea. I like Aubrey Plaza. I love her. I think she's got to be a really cool villain. So there's things in there I do really like. But I would agree. I think with both those projects, it took too long. Way too long.
Yeah.
Okay, and lastly, just our last thing here. I know we spent a lot of time on that. X-Men movie officially has a writer. It's seemingly finally moving forward. Are we excited for X-Men in the MCU or?
Yes, I would say yes because, like I said, I'm always gonna go on hope. But you know, my working conversation with my friend is because of what they've done, like with the multiverse in the MCU. Is it MCU proper, the 616 that we're getting the X-Men, or is it going to be like they're on their own timeline, Earth, world, reality? Because technically, the X-Men are part of the MCU since they connected everything with you know Spider-Man and then Beast and now Deadpool coming out.
Yeah.
And that's the conversation we've had is the X-Men going to be this? Are they part of the 616, the MCU proper? That's what I call it. Or is it going to be its own thing? My argument has always been I like it being its own thing.
Oh, interesting.
I think they work better as characters when they don't have to deal with a lot of the MCU stuff.
Because I look at it like this. Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, the Hulk, Captain America, even Daredevil are all people that are like birthed out of tragedy or scientific experiments gone wrong. They're people that got something and then rose to being heroes. The X-Men represent a completely different dynamic of people born differently. And I've always had like reading comics and stuff. I'm like, why is, you know, the Fantastic Four praised for their weird powers and loved, but then someone's born and can stretch and all of a sudden they're hated.
Yeah.
So I've always felt the X-Men stories are strongest when they're kind of cut off from the Marvel world. And like, you can argue against me. That's fine. I don't care. I always like that argument is the X-Men, because you got the social political aspect of what the mutations represent and everything. And I think the stories just work stronger, not in a world with Captain America, not in a world with Spider-Man, you know. But that's just like my thoughts.
I think it would be. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. No, I was just gonna say, like, I definitely see that, and I think in my mind there is somewhat, and maybe just because the Fox movies for so long were separate, so in my mind are like these separate things. I do kind of like. I don't like the idea clearly, but like there is something to be said about like, well, why are these people praised and these aren't? But I also think that's like a narrative on like society and like how we treat real life people. Being like, well, they were born too. Like, why are they different than these people? It's like with branding. It's like, oh yeah, they're a mutant, so they must be bad. Like I do think there's a bit like, why is Spider-Man okay but not Wolverine? It's like, well, but Wolverine's a mutant. We don't like mutants. He's a superhero. You know, like there's definitely that conversation to be had, and there's definitely stories that there's stuff that in line, whereas it is cool to see like Wolverine and Spider-Man and Captain America in like one world. I definitely think what they're going to do, I think Secret Wars, I think this X-Men movie will probably take place after Secret Wars. Like I have an opinion they're going to like kind of start fresh with like the MCU, not completely, but kind of like a new starting point and kind of very crisis wise, where keep what you want, keep what you don't kind of thing. And I really liked kind of like the narrative that it seems like they're going to be telling with like Fisk and his like anti-superhero crusade or whatever. I think that's going to be a big part for the mutants. I think it's going to be the first step into like, wait, are superheroes actually good? This idea with like humans, like, oh, and you have like the Thunderbolts coming and all these kind of things. I do think is kind of leading into the X-Men. But I could definitely get what you're saying about like wanting to keep those separate, because it is like a thing where it's like, oh, we're in New York, it's being attacked, where's all the heroes? Okay, I guess Spider-Man's not going to come because reasons or whatever it may be. So you definitely have a point. Connor, did you have stuff to add to that?
No, I was just going to say that I think like doing that, I think they need to be kept separate for the reasons you've sort of established, but I think it also would create a very cool contrast if you have them separate on their own Earth or in their own universe or whatever, and then sometimes there's some crossovers where they end up in the MCU, they have to deal with MCU heroes, and it's kind of this contrast of you guys over here being praised while we're being sort of hunted and stuff like that, like we're being outcasts and all of this sort of stuff. And I think it could create a lot of really cool dynamics where it puts a lot of the main MCU heroes in a position to like, you know, have conversations that we don't really see in the MCU and stuff like that, like real conversations. But I think as well, just because of what the X-Men are and the mutants in general, I feel like it doesn't work in the current MCU. There needs to be a shakeup. They can't just be there all of a sudden. You can't just out of nowhere reveal that, you know, Xavier and Scott Summers and Jean Grey and all these other characters have actually like been in the background the whole time, and they're like, you know, the Xavier school's now there and stuff like that. Like they just, it'll feel shoehorned in, it'll feel out of nowhere. There'll need to be sort of a big multiverse change at some point if they are in the main Earth 616 timeline.
Or things start now, like mutants are like there's something that happens where mutants are like being created, like there's a snap theory that happened a while ago where like, oh, the snap caused the mutants or whatever.
My working theory for a while was tying back that if they ever did anything, because with the Celestials, that the Celestials, when they came back to Earth, they activated the mutant gene that they had planted in people.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And then all of a sudden you have mutants. Well, that's cool. That's a way to get mutants in. But then we still have to figure out like the X-Men, like, you know, there's certain points of that certain characters come from and they're built into their storyline.
Like Magneto.
Especially with Magneto. Like,
so that's true.
So that's what I'm saying. Like you'd have to like recreate something very similar to that. In the storyline. And I just, I mean, I think you can get mutants in. I mean, they're already trying, like, I hate when they double power. Like that was my biggest issue with Miss Marvel, was they did the whole Bangles thing, which I thought was cool. But then all of a sudden they're like, oh, you're also a mutant. And it's like, what? Okay, why? Like, why do we have to go there? Like we're creating a difference to this character, but then you
Namor as well.
And then Namor was the other views that were like, oh, he has a mutation, he's a mutant. And he's like, okay, so you have mutant powers because of this, but you're also this. Okay. Sure. So I'm just like, all right, we'll see what happens. But
I agree.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Obviously, I'm very excited for like the movie itself. Like again, X-Men my favorite like superhero team. I'm excited to see what they do with it. I want, again, after like X-Men like 97, I think everyone's like, oh yeah, this is a cool team. I'm excited to see how they adopt that, how they kind of go forward with their own version of the team, and I hope it's done better than a lot of the other movies we've had in the past. I'm sorry it took so long kind of getting here, but we're going to be talking about some Superman suits here. Now I have some listed where we're going to be looking at the suits, and then we're going to go over and just kind of talk about where we would place each of these suits on our tier list that we have created over here. And our first one, and Connor, if you kind of want to lead this conversation, because I know you're much kind of more in the know about Supermans of the past and the present and the future. So what's everyone's thoughts on this first suit that we have
just
here?
Before we start, I should just say that, like,
okay, go ahead.
There's a lot of this isn't every Superman live, like it's just the live action costumes, and this isn't every live action costume. Like, there's, you know, a lot of random little niche ones that aren't in here that have like had one-offs or like just appeared, you know, for a couple episodes in a TV show somewhere. These are kind of just the main suits that were very predominant in either their serials, their movies, their TV shows over the past, I guess, 90 years, 80 something years. So yeah.
Where's Super Pets, Connor? We need to rank the Super Pets suits.
Isn't live action, Daren.
Dang it!
So,
Black Adam was there. Should count.
True. It was still animated Black Adam though.
All right, let's talk about this first one.
So yeah, Kirk Alyn from the Superman serial from 1948, and then Superman versus the Atom Man, I think is the name of the sequel to that from 1950. So yeah, what I like about it is like the cape really, the top of the cape reminds me of the David Cornsweet costume, like the way it kind of like dips in a little bit.
So with this one, it's very much a translation of what you would think at the time.
Yeah.
And looking at the even from the comics, you know, this is still, Superman's been around 10 years by this time. Yeah. So there's been some shifts, some change. It's very functional. Like, the costume's actually brown. Fun fact, because of how it appears, it's gray and brown. So when they filmed in black and white, it would actually look like colorful. But I think it's a serviceable costume. You know, if you're thinking of, like, at the time, there wasn't as much marketing strategy or it was just, this is what it is. We're going to make a live action of this.
Yeah.
So I think it's serviceable and it works. Have you guys watched any of the serials?
I've seen the Superman and the Atom Man, or Superman versus the Atom Man.
Oh, cool. I've not. I've heard of there's a lot on this list that I definitely know of, but I don't have like firsthand experience with. I'm just kind of looking at this one. I think it does the job. Like, you see that and you think, oh yeah, that's Superman, all right. I wouldn't say it's one of my favorites though, out of all the ones we have here. I'd probably say like middle of the road, probably, for me personally. So yeah, over here we have S, A, B, C, and D. I couldn't add F, so just count D as like an F, like last place.
Sure. I just appreciate it because, like, it's so, you know, a lot of this was their first real attempt to translate this off the page into something that would be recognizable and visible on film. Like, they had to make a suit that was going to be seen by a lot of people that wouldn't have been seen before. So I think it's impressive for that reason. Like, I also think that S is so iconic.
You go back, and Kirk Alyn was a dancer, and you watch that, like, he came from that world. You watch his moves when he is moving; it's very fluid, like a dancer. So they would make a costume that allows a dancer to move,
like breathable kind of.
Yeah, so they're using tights and stuff. Like, the pants are tights, the shirt's more of a little bit of a different kind of material. I can't remember what it is. So I mean, and it's like I said, if it's the first, they're just looking at what it is in the comic and making it what it is.
Sure.
So I rank it a C.
I was thinking around the C area. Connor, are you thinking?
Yeah,
C
I'm good
as
with
well?
C. I'm good with C.
Alrighty, let's put this bad boy in C. Alrighty, our next one here. George Reeves, Connor.
Yeah.
What did you have to say about this one?
Superman and Superman and the Mole Man. I always get mixed up between Mole Man or Mole Man.
It's
Mole Man. That was okay. Mole Man. Cool. Because I have the special Blu-ray like Superman movie list, or the Superman movie that has like the Fleischer cartoons. It's got some of the original serials. It's got the 5 films up to Superman Returns. But yeah, no, I think like this costume just looks comfy. Is how I always go. Like, feel when I say it. It feels like pajamas, but like
Yeah.
I think it works.
I like this one. If I were to say something a little bit more negative, the cape is very narrow.
Yeah.
If we're getting nitpicky, okay? If we're getting nitpicky about that, I like that the belt has the circle.
Uh-huh.
The cape is very kind of narrow just along its back. It doesn't expand out. We don't really see much of the cape up top. So I don't. It's a little bit, different. If we're nitpicking. So
Yeah.
Sure. It feels kind of like, a little like Supergirl's cape, kind of. Like not in a negative way. It kind of reminds me of that sort of, like less of sort of the wide Superman cape, more of just like what you'd see, I guess, in like early Supergirl comics.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. It definitely gives off like PJ vibes, and I don't mean that in like a bad way, but yeah, it definitely looks like something that you would like wear around the house, just kind of loafing off. And obviously, like the 1950s, like this probably looked amazing, right? It's probably like
And he also appeared in I Love
suit.
Lucy for an episode.
I did. I heard about that. Yeah, that's fun.
That's my first exposure to this Superman.
Oh, really? Cool.
Because my great grandma, I was hanging out with them, and they were watching I Love Lucy, and the episode came on with him, and that was my first exposure to George as Superman.
Oh, awesome.
That's fun. I love that. All right, where are we kind of feeling on like the tier of it all?
I'm still kind of in the C range.
C?
I was gonna say the same, yeah, just mainly because of the PJ sort of material to it.
It's very similar to Kirk's, but the cape being like, or if we're gonna, like I said, if we're doing this, we're doing it. We're being nitpicky, okay?
Yeah.
I think the cape's too slim.
Yeah, that's a valid complaint.
I feel like I can touch the suit. Like I feel like it's like the same kind of like material that like a t-shirt would be, or like a really nice sweater.
Yes.
That's
like kind of like how Kirk's was like a sweater-esque. And this is very similar. I mean, they kind of, translated over because originally Kirk was supposed to be, he was offered the part in Superman Enrollment, and he turned it down, and George came in and did that and then did the series. So, and there's little advances, in his costume over the series, little tweaks and stuff as we go, but it was mainly the same, through most of the run.
Cool.
Love it. Very fun. We got Christopher Reeves up here next. Very iconic. I mean, I guess they're all very iconic, but I feel like Christopher Reeves put his stamp on the character in ways that many probably didn't get the chance to. I love the suit, man. I really love this suit.
It's almost perfect. My one problem with the Reeves suit is just the cape is a little too short for my liking. That's it. That's
my two complaints: cape is too short and the boots are too high.
Okay. Actually, I never really noticed that, but because I guess they are really high.
I think that's more of a 70s aesthetic.
Yeah.
So like I teeter guys between a B and an A with this one just because I don't like the short cape.
Yeah.
I'd personally go A.
And I'm fine with that. Like I said, I teeter just because I'm going to be meticulous. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We can go A. That's fine. I'm good.
I'm kind of feeling A too. I think I love the colors, and like I know all three of these have been like colorful. I just you look at that suit and I think it inspires like hope. Like I see hope. Yeah. I see love. I see like compassion. I love how bright and how much it pops. Like,
and that's how Superman should be. Like it should be bright. And we'll talk about that more later. But I wrote an article about the costume and for the Daily Planet, just about how the bright colors are part of his psychology to his character.
Sure. Yeah.
I
love that. Yeah, absolutely. And it also just like sets a standard for like what you would go on to do later, which I think is important. Not to say the others didn't, but I feel like this is the one people talk about a lot.
It's also so interesting that the one thing that's like identical between, I guess, what is it, like 30 years of Superman costumes here is the belt. Like the belt is pretty much the same between all three. Yeah. Oh, well, I guess it's a bit different on Kirk's.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little different.
Yeah.
Didn't have the little...
I think it's a little different when we get to... And well, I'll hold that comment. We'll get there.
Okay. Alrighty. Next up here, John Newman.
The first Superboy. Got recast after the first season, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yep, he did the first season, and then the show was kind of retooled in the second season. Like everybody in the second season, everybody left but Lana.
Yeah.
They got a new Superboy and new side characters and everything. It is a very interesting journey with Superboy. But his costume, it's very much just Chris's costume. I think
Different
I think
Fs. That's
John's
kind of it, isn't it?
boots. I think John's boots are a little lower.
Okay.
Than what Gerard would wear. I think Gerard wore almost the exact same thing. But I mean, they're very close. I give it a B.
Yeah.
Because it looks, it looks good, but at the same time, it looks like almost like they're trying to copy instead of giving it its own little identity. But yeah, it's kind of a look. I mean, it might just be the presentation of the person wearing it. Sometimes,
sure.
the way what they personally bring out in the costume.
Yeah, they're not doing kind of that super pose. Like it's kind of more a casual sort of way they're standing.
Yeah.
But I like it. To me, it's a B because
Sure.
and a lot of it goes to me with like the idea of it looking more homemade compared to it being of alien origin or where it comes from. And I think that's always in there. But the belt, like you said, it looks great. Got the oval.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like it's coming right off the comic book page. So I mean,
it does. Yeah. It feels like it.
Yeah. Can I just ask someone who has no context with the show? Was the show called Super? Like, was it still supposed to be Superman, but they called it Superboy, or was it like a Superboy character?
So basically,
Superboy wasn't a character yet.
Yeah.
Okay,
So the Superboy that we think of wasn't there, and basically, it's the story. The Soul kind sold the right to Superman to Canon Films.
Yeah.
And then they wanted to produce content and material, so they decided to create a Superboy TV series. I mean, it's Clark Kent. He's in college. They just, did it, and they pulled characters like Lana Lang from Smallville, and just did this type of series of Superman on TV. But they did it under the Superboy banner because of rights issues and stuff like that. So
that's what I was thinking, but I wasn't sure. So I was like, I'll ask this one. So you guys were saying you're thinking about B? Is that?
Yeah, I would say B. Yeah, because it's not as iconic as the Reeve suit, but I feel like it feels better than the Kirk or George suits.
Sure. Yeah, it looks nice. It looks a little. I don't want to say fake. Like, fake's not the word I'm looking for, but it looks very like.
Looks like you can make it.
Yeah, it looks like this looks like someone's mom made it. Like what it was probably supposed to be, but it looks like like my mom made it. So yeah, it looks nice. I like it. All right, Gerard Christopher.
The cape here as well reminds me of David's.
This is the second Superboy, right? This is the person who came in after him. Gotcha.
The S. I prefer the S on the other one.
Mm-hmm. I think I prefer the other one to this one. Just like looking at the two back to back.
I mean, it might be the color just in this image. It doesn't pop as much. Like it doesn't feel nearly as bright and colorful as you would want it to.
I feel okay. So this one, like his cape's a little longer and wider. It's basically similar, but it is a little tweaked. It is a little bit more in the Chris vein.
Yeah.
And he had higher boots. And interesting was in season 2. So Gerard here is Superboy for 3 seasons. Mm-hmm. And in season 2, it's still Superboy, but in season 3, they retitled the show The Adventures of Superboy.
Oh.
And so in season 3 and 4, it's The Adventures of Superboy.
Cool. I like it.
Also, Gerard was in Crisis on Infinite Earths as a deceased Superman on one of the TV screens.
That's still rumored. It's never.
Oh, is rumored? Still only rumored? Yeah. Oh, I thought they confirmed that for some reason.
I've heard that he wasn't, but then I've heard little people try to say he was. But I lean more towards the negative on that one.
Okay, that's my bad.
People that have had contact with him. But he should have been.
I thought that was,
He should have been. I just think they could have gotten them in there, but
yeah,
fun. All right, where are we thinking with this one? Are we thinking on par with the last one, or
I'd say B. See, I would put like low B. Like it's better to me than the Kirk and George suits, but I think it's worse than it's clearly worse than the first Superboy suit just to me. But I still think B is suitable for it.
Hell yeah, I would agree so far. Nicolas Cage is Superman. It's kind of funny to have like the photo from the Flash here, but also
Yeah.
like like not so it's such in the past as well.
You guys ever watch the documentary? Whatever
I
happened?
did around when it came out,
It's
like
so
2016
good.
time.
There's some pictures and stuff of him. I think this suit could have been really cool. What was it, like in full live action, like when you see it. I
Yeah.
like
Wow.
this, but I still put, because of the situation with this, I put it as a B.
Okay.
It teeters to an A because I think it looks like a
interesting.
classic Superman. It could be good, but I think it has all the ingredients to be something that really pops.
Yeah.
But it's a BC, I guess, because it is good, but I just feel like we never really got what we needed from it.
Sure.
Mhm.
But you guys
To
can
me,
always
like,
disagree.
I think it definitely has that really like 1990s Superman feel, but that might be just like the almost mullet style hair like Nick is rocking there just reminds me of like, early 1990s Superman comics. But the costume to me, it feels a little too action figure-y. It feels too much like he's just, a toy that just came out of a box. Rather, he does, but I mean, this could just be Flash's weird CGI in this scene. But I also think the behind the scenes pictures, the suit itself, the suit itself still has sort of an action figure-y feel. So to me, I'd gear more towards C, but I'm okay putting it in a B if
I'm
Darren
good with
wants to
C.
put it in a B.
I'm good with C. Like I'm good with you guys, whatever, because I feel like it's right there. Because I mean, part of the problem is, like, I'm also thinking about the photos I had seen before, because
Sure.
in this time when they actually present it, it is CG.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Like it's
kind
not
of like,
real at all.
you know what I'm saying? It's like but I think
Yeah.
I think C works.
Yeah,
Cool.
I think it's kind of hard because it's it's a situation of like having to separate the situation from the suit itself. Because I'm not a huge fan of what they did towards the end of the Flash movie. I'm not a huge fan of that sequence. Like Nicolas Cage, I think that was weirdly enough my favorite cameo that they did. But even then, it's like, but did that many people like care to see like Nicolas Cage again as that? I don't know. Like it felt
We did. We did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
we
outside of
did.
comic fans, like to a general audience, who's gonna be like, is that Nicolas Cage in a Superman costume fighting a giant spider?
Is that,
what's
that
that
Ghost
about?
Rider?
But I appreciate the cameo. I just wish they
Yeah,
had
I
done
do.
a multiverse different. But that's another
Yeah.
conversation.
They could have gotten Nick Cage, like he said.
He said he
would never
filmed. That's the thing, was he said he filmed.
Oh, did he?
He was there and he filmed.
wow.
And I wondered, like, there's so much I wonder about this film just from watching the behind the scenes and the choices and how they filmed it.
Okay.
And you guys gotta go check out when I just went on a whole rant on it. But he said he filmed some things, and then this is what they did. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't love the suit, if I'm going to be honest. I'd probably put it with C. It's not D.
Okay.
It's not definitely not D, but it's. I think it's. Is it weird if I said it's too shiny? Is that like a complaint?
It feels
it goes into that whole glossiness of being CG.
It does,
too.
yeah.
So yeah, I'm good with that. Like,
yeah. Dean Cain.
Yeah, there were a few Lois and Clark versions
controversial
of the costume,
Superman,
but this is like the main one, and so
yeah,
I was
let's
like,
say there's the pilot version, which is a little bit different, and then this, like you said, is the main version. One thing I like about this, I'll give it a B straight out, because I like the big symbol. It falls in line with the others. I like that the blue's a little darker. It's not. It's more of a rich royal blue than like a sky blue, and I personally like that in a blue. Like blue's my favorite color. And the cape is big, but not too.
It's a very big cape.
Long.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of the boots. They look a little rubbery, but they almost like the boots don't match with the rest of the color palette of the suit.
Yeah.
But I give it a B.
Yeah, I'd probably say the same. Like the symbol really sort of brings this suit together for me. Like it's sort of what makes it, I think, work. Like I think a smaller symbol there and the suit sort of falls apart, I think. I like that it's still like the color is like this is, I guess, other than the Kirk Allen one, because it was literally brown, but this would probably have been, in terms of what actually got made, the darkest of like the live action TV/movie Superman suits that they'd had so far. So I think it's a cool swing and kind of putting their own stylistic stamp on it in that way. But yeah, I'd go B as well.
Yeah, I out of all the ones that we've kind of talked about so far, it's definitely the most unique of the Superman. suits that I would say. I'm not a huge fan of how dark it is. Like I feel like I'm usually a fan of like the lighter blues, or not lighter blues, but like a little bit lighter than that. I can agree with B though. I have no problem putting it in B. I mean, I could have met Dean Cain last year. I could have met him at a con, and I was like, do I want to pay $100 to meet Dean Cain? I'm not too sure.
I met him back in 2018. Yeah, 2018. So I got my picture with him back in 2018. He was the first Superman I got to meet.
Oh yeah. Have you met like any others?
Yeah, I've met Tom twice. Brandon. I did Brandon back in 2022. Yeah, 2022. I got to meet Brandon. I've interviewed virtually George Newbern, who voiced Superman on Justice League and other stuff, and then I did Jason J. Lewis, who voiced him on Justice League Action.
So, yeah, it's amazing.
And so I've got to meet quite a few, and I was supposed to meet Tyler, and we had it set up, but that's when they were starting to shut cons and conventions down, right before we had the massive shutdown. And my wife sat and debated going to Cleveland to a convention, how we felt, because it was like at the end of February, early March, right before the shutdown. So we decided not to do it, but
sure.
That's like really cool though. I love that. All right, we got the Brandon Rouse. I kind of like let's just kind of put them all together. So we have the 2006 one, which we can talk about first.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of this one?
Well, I didn't put Tom Welling in the Superman Returns suit in here because I was like, it would probably be a very similar conversation as just the Brandon Routh 2006 one anyway.
Yeah, I don't like Tom Welling from the finale. I don't really look at that as his suit.
Yeah,
because I feel like that was just they made him do that because everybody wanted to see the Superman. I think he had his own style.
Yeah, completely.
But so the first one, the Superman Returns suit, I gave it a B. I like the smaller trunks. I think the cape looks too plasticky. The high collar is okay. The t-shirt style collar is okay. The smaller symbol, I'm okay with. I think it works. Here, I would prefer it bigger, but I love the belt. Not a huge fan of the boots.
Okay.
But I like the blue bodysuit. But his Crisis suit in the middle, A, all day. Maybe even S. I think the Crisis one is. I would say if there's anything that's S to me, it'd be that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Go ahead, Daren. You go first.
I don't know. I've never really vibed with the Brandon, like the first Brandon Rouse suit. I don't know. Maybe it's too basic. I don't know. It looks very like plain to me. I don't know. I guess some of the others are similar, but I don't know. I see that it kind of looks a bit naked to me. I don't know. Maybe that's
I get what you're saying. It could. I mean, part of that I think is because you've compressed the trunks, you've compressed the belt, almost to like swimmer speedos. And Brandon is a swimmer, or at the time he was, and then you shrunk the chest symbol, and then you've hired the neck, so you've actually expanded the blue, and then the stuff that makes it pop, you've made smaller.
Yeah.
So you've really put a lot more of like the bodysuit into it.
Yeah, I agree. And then the Crisis, the Kingdom Come suit, probably one of my favorite like live action superhero suits ever. Like I think it's very easily my favorite Superman suit. I think it's like I cannot believe how much they like cooked for 1.5 episodes for him wearing it.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, it was definitely a way of saying, Brandon, we're sorry for what you've been through.
Yeah.
You know, we want you to stand out. And
yeah, it's like CW suits have gotten a lot of hate over the years, but like in the last several years that them being on, I think they were like, yeah, we make good costumes.
They're putting out fantastic costumes. Like I think since 2015-ish. Like for me, I think the season 4 Arrow costume was when it started to turn around, where they were like putting out legitimately great comic book costumes from that point on pretty routinely.
Diggle had that bad costume in season 4, and since then we're like, we gotta pick up the game.
Helmet.
we gotta turn this ship around.
Spartan Magneto helmet or whatever it was.
Connor, what's your thoughts on these three?
Let's talk about the Crisis ones first, because yeah, I mean, like I don't know how they made something so perfect. Like the middle one to me is an S because I think it's exactly what it should be. And I know that the yellow, red, and blue one is not an actual costume that they made. Like it's just the normal dark blue and red costume with the black symbol. It's just that, but color corrected or color graded to look red, white, or red, yellow, and blue. But I think like that to me is the perfect Superman costume. That is exactly the kind of color tone that I want a Superman costume to be. Like that's, even though it's not a real costume they made, that's my favorite Superman costume of all time in live action, because I think it's just perfect in terms of the colors. And I think just that red and yellow S looks so good. Like it's, I don't know if there could be a better looking just kind of Superman to me than that. Like that's so good. Like that's an S to me as well. The Superman Returns one, I'm a little less kind of there, because I feel like it's got that very mid 2000s spandex rubbery kind of look to it that a lot of the superhero costumes with them. Like to me, it feels very similar to like the Fantastic Four films that were coming out around then kind of had as well.
Yeah, and wasn't the same costume design? No, wait, I was thinking about something else. Never mind.
But like it has that sort of mid 2000s feel, which is not bad. Like it's what they were doing at the time, but I don't know if it's necessarily what I like to see in superhero costumes.
Yeah,
like I'm glad we moved on from that style, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Where would we put that one? The 2006 suit.
Returns, I think it's a B.
Okay, I mean I'm okay putting it a B. Yeah.
What are you thinking, Connor? Were you thinking?
I was thinking high C, but I'm good with B.
I mean, yeah, I think it's a good suit. It's got its flaws, but I also appreciate, like, I think about in a lot of ways, like marketing, like they're trying to give it a certain image and not just enough that, like, when, like, you know, I'm wearing this symbol, you go, oh, that's the Superman Returns suit.
Yeah.
I mean, and we see that with other costumes. Like, I mean, Spider-Man, every live action Spider-Man, they tweak the spider, you know. So C or B is good for me. Either one's fine. Either way you're going to put it.
I'd probably say C as well.
That's fine.
I didn't see.
Because
and then I put the first Crisis suit in S. Is everyone okay with that in S?
Yeah.
Okay. So what about the second one? Where are we thinking?
I'd say A. I go A. Just because it's like you said, it's the same suit but color corrected. And I feel like that's in a way a cheat. But
Sure. Yeah, that's fair. That is fair. Yeah, I'm good with A.
Alrighty, on to our next.
And I cheated with the Tom Welling ones. No, they don't technically count.
I love the jacket. I thought for Smallville, I thought the red jacket was cool because it fit the aesthetic of what the Smallville suits were.
Sure, very much so.
And it started to carve out Tom his own identity with a suit. So like anytime I want to picture Tom as Superman, that's what I use.
Yeah.
I can understand where some people don't like it. Like, yes, I wish that the embossed S was yellow behind it, just for the contrast and everything. I think the black is cool because it's, you know, it reflects what he was doing. It kind of blends in with the Kandorians at the time.
Yeah.
The fact that there's both just kind of like jeans as pants is kind of a
they love those jeans in their suits at the time.
Yeah. I mean, just think about like what the other people were wearing on Smallville is more like hoodies and jackets and stuff, and it fit it, but it's not a full-on suit, so I would give them both C's.
Okay.
Just as much as I love the jacket, like I have the jacket, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I have a picture of me wearing the jacket with Tom Welling. Like I love the jacket.
So cool.
But I feel like as an overall Superman aesthetic, it's a C.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's completely valid. Like these two things are they're iconic to me, and they mean a lot to me because Smallville was kind of like the show for me I was growing up with. So like they just kind of a lot of nostalgia tied to these two costumes. But for me, I think for the red jacket one, I feel like I'd put it in a low B just because I think it's getting close. Like that's Clark's suit for the series. That's Clark's suit for the show essentially. Like that's, you know, we never get to properly see him in a Superman costume. So this is essentially what he's been building up to for the 10 seasons. Whereas I'd put maybe the black jacket one in a C because I'm like, it's just sort of a Neo Matrixy kind of like look for Clark, and it does match Zod and the Kandorians and what was going on in season 9, sort of that dark look. But it also just feels a little weird. Like it's Clark Kent in a black trench coat. But yeah, that's my feelings on them anyway.
these are tough. These are tough because I definitely agree with what you guys are saying about like and I agree. I think like excluded Smallville as a show, I think these are really cool. I think ranking them among the rest of the suits though, they probably are my least favorite Superman suits, just in terms
Okay,
of
yeah,
like
sure.
they're not really Superman suits,
Yeah,
or,
yeah, they're not.
or at least not in the way that we know them. Like when people think of like, oh, like CW have bad costumes, these are what people are thinking
No,
of.
exactly.
Yes. So, and again, I like it. Like I respect it. Like especially like in the time and like the time era we were at. Like that is a bit of the charm. They're probably both D's for me though. If I'm ranking
Oh
them
wow,
like
okay.
among the others,
Okay.
but I'm okay with them in C. If you guys want to put them in
Yeah,
C,
yeah.
or
Put them out and see.
whatever.
It's both in C, B, C. Sorry, I had to check on the kid. He was yelling.
That's okay.
Daren
No
was
problem.
just saying both suits are terrible and he hates them. And he
Oh,
hates
that's
everything
what I
about
said.
it.
But like,
I
like
just-
I said, you have to take these kind of in context of being Smallville and
Sure,
what they were
100%,
doing with the show,
exactly.
because you can't compare that like this to the regular Superman suits when you're
No,
like, what?
for sure.
But when you take
Absolutely.
into what they were doing, it's like, okay, I
Sure, yeah.
can get behind
And like,
it.
in fairness, I feel like that's a lot of like the CW shows. Like you have to be like someone on the outside be like, they did that thing, that's really stupid. Where it's like, but you don't understand what they were trying to do and what they were able to do with like the like limitations of what they were dealt with.
Yeah.
And I mean, just think about where we were as a society. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, we go back 2000. X-Men put them all in black suits because we were coming out of stuff like The Matrix,
Yeah.
and where it was like darker
Sure.
and grittier. Like we hadn't been able to really accept, the idea of color back in the costumes. So and full-on
Yeah.
costuming. Even like Spider-Man came out in 2002, and that was the first time I think we really were like, oh, cool. But even think about how that costume was stylized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and then they had to keep with their aesthetics. So yeah, it works.
No, absolutely. Also, I just wanted some Tom Welling like representation here as well. So like, well, if I'm not putting in the return suit, then
No,
there's
I
going to
totally
be
agree
no
with your choice.
start from that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Totally agree with your choice.
All right, we got
Also, should
Henry
just say
Cavill.
the Man of Steel suit is different from the BVS suit and the Justice League 2017 suit, but they're like, it's kind of mostly color correction on them, where it just kind of makes the suit pop a little different each time.
So like it is weird, like if like because he has like different suits based on just nothingness, but
yeah, exactly. He just shows up looking different every time.
Because like the Black Adam suit is the Man of Steel suit just with more color. And my favorite image from Man of Steel is still that was from the Smallville scene, because it was shot in natural daylight, and you actually see the costume isn't as dark as it looks, because that comes from like the post and the color grading and stuff, because it is a darker blue, but it looks so much darker in the film than it actually is. So with Man of Steel, I like the Man of Steel suit. It's actually my favorite Cavill suit. I've for a while I thought it was the BVS suit, but I like the way the chainmail-esque-ness of the symbol. I like the story behind the suit. The BVS and the 2017 Justice League look too molded and sculpted to where it looks like he can't really move.
Yeah.
It looks almost like
armor.
Yeah, it has a weird where it's looking like this one looks more like a suit that's stretched on his skin tightly, whereas the BVS looks like he's having like there's a couple of scenes where he's moving and it looks like it's restrictive and stuff. And I mean, it's not a bad suit, but it just looks more formed. But I don't like how dark the Man of Steel suit is, but I like the suit.
That's my thoughts exactly.
Valid.
I like in terms of how dark it is, it's one of my least favorite just in terms of that. But like everything else about it is gorgeous. Like I do like I like the lines on it. It looks very alien, which I know is like a thing people talk about with the movie. But I personally like how it looks like where he's from. Like it doesn't just look like clothes. I think that is cool. Like I think if you picked like a lighter blue and maybe a slightly like brighter red, it's a great suit.
I like how long the cape is. I like the way the cape when it's the natural cape and not the CGI cape. So and I do like that's where I talked about like the origin of the suit, where it comes from. I do like that it comes from his homeworld, that it is alien that he wears. It is part of his heritage, and it works. So the Man of Steel suit, I give a B.
Okay. Connor,
Okay.
where are you thinking that one?
Yeah, probably B as well. It's just like it's just their style of the film that it looks so washed out and desaturated, and there really is no need for it to. But in terms of just like not purely based on the color, yeah, I think B works. It easily feels the most alien of all the Superman live action suits, which it's supposed to. So
Yeah.
I think that's something it really has going for it.
And I would put just based on everything we just said, I would go with the Black Adam appearance, even though it is the same suit, but with the color grading, an A.
Yeah, I'd completely agree with that.
I would say the A. I would. That's probably my favorite out of like these three here. Just in terms of like I don't know. It also like that moment was really special. We finally have him back. Like that was such a special moment, and it felt like they were like, okay, this is how we're telling the Superman story now. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. So that also plays a part.
My daughter stood up and clapped and yelled Superman because it was her first time
hell
seeing
yeah.
Superman on the big screen. I mean, we had seen Super Pets, but that's animated, but
Sure,
she was
yeah.
so excited when he came down. She like stood up and cheered, so it was a special moment,
awesome.
just for me with her at the theater and stuff. And
Yeah.
And what the only live action Superman she's seen on the big screen technically has been Cavill in that Black Adam scene, Nick Cage in the Flash, and then Supergirl in the Flash. So
cool.
Yeah, that's same here because I missed a lot of like the early, like I didn't see any like the DCU movies in theaters until Aquaman. So like that was like this was one of my first moments like Superman in the theater, and I felt like the change in a suit like symbolized the direction we were taking.
Mhm.
I'm not
at the time what we thought it was going to be.
Yeah, like I'm not going to go into. I have some opinions on like Henry Cavill. I think that casting is amazing. I'm not going to go into it, but like I was so happy that like we're like Henry's going to finally be able to play another version of that character. That
look at that curl.
Yeah,
I love curl. Yeah, I felt like so. Yeah, I would probably say like a. You guys said B, right? Or no, you guys said A.
I'd say A. Yeah, I would say
A for the Black Adam. Yeah, and then my thoughts on the black suit here. To me, it's a B because I like the black suit for what it is, but I mean they add a cape to the black suit.
Yeah.
So they changed that up from what it was in the comics, and there's really not a story purpose for the black suit. I mean, you can argue.
Looks around.
I mean, but he chooses that. But the thing is, they show us that there's another blue one available in the, in the thing. If there had been like this is supposed to be where he's like in a sense of mourning or dread, or because they don't even touch on being solar powered like it is in the comics. Yeah. If it had been the only suit there, it made sense. But I also think, this is my marketing side, that they went with the black suit because it is color graded. They actually made a black suit for Man of Steel, but for Justice League
for
here,
the flashback, or not flashback, like the Zod vision scene.
Yeah. I think it helps separate it from the other established Justice League film. So when you see Superman in the black suit, you automatically know Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Yeah.
It was also as much of a marketing way of shifting that film's look as it was about in story reason. But to me, it's a good black suit. Don't get me wrong. And I think the S, the symbol, when they added the Kryptonian quote inside, I think it was a little too much.
Sure.
So I go back with a B for that one.
Yeah,
I think it's just it does match the tone of the film. Like it immediately tells you what kind of film you're about to watch. Like, this is the kind of Superman you're about to see. It's a little different than what you might be expecting. That's because this is Zack Snyder's film and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I think B is pretty accurate for it, because like I can never tell whether I like or dislike this suit. Like I think it's visually cool, but it's like I don't know what I'm supposed to feel about this suit or how I'm supposed to feel about it. Like you can't connect with where this Superman is in his life or whatever, because they don't really ever go into that. Like they never really address why this suit is what it is or whatever. And it's also I know it's to set apart that this is Zack's stuff, but I still think when he does the shirt rip at the end, the fact that it's not the yellow and blue and red again is a bit weird.
It should have been. It should have been. It should have been part of like the subtlety of when he came back. He wasn't sure if he wanted to do it. Yeah, but he went out because they needed him, and then he decides that he will go back out into the light and the brighter color. So, I agree with that. Like, it should have been the rip, should have been the blue.
Yeah. I like just looking at it. Like, I always think it's a really cool costume. I think it's a really cool suit. I'm not, always thrilled about black suits. I don't think they're bad or anything. They're just not some of my favorite Superman suits. And like, yeah, story wise, like, it always just like, oh yeah, that one time he wore that black suit. I guess I remember that. And like, I always like forget that it was a thing. As far as suits itself, where are you guys thinking? Like, you guys thinking B, A,
B,
where?
is what
B?
I'm thinking.
Yeah, I put B because it is good for what it is.
It is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'd agree with B, like right in the middle. All right, we're getting into the end here with some Tyler Hoechlin Superman suits.
All right, Supergirl, right here.
Yep.
All I have to say with this, I say
Okay.
D. I say D.
Oh wow, okay. Really?
Because I think the boots are horrible.
Okay. Interesting.
I don't like the straps on the way it touches the cape. It doesn't really make sense. I love the S symbol. Like, it's the favorite. I think the bodysuit blue is decent. It's good, but that belt is atrocious.
Sure. I can see all that.
If I'm being nitpicky, guys, we're talking about,
Yeah.
okay, and I have to pick, like, it's either a D or a C, but I really just don't like this suit. And the black suit is a C. It's a better black suit. They make some improvements to, like, they give him boots that are better as this black suit, but still, like, I like the collar on this suit. I think it works with this suit.
Yeah.
But once again, that belt is horrible, and the way the cape attaches here, it works for the black suit, I think, better than the blue suit. And if I'm being nitpicky, like, I don't like it.
Yeah.
The boots are very, very square, very stiff. But yeah, so that's I love him in Supergirl. I love those 2 episodes where he first appears. And I love that S. I love that it's the rubber, it's big, and it has like a chain link in it when you zoom in. But that's my piece there.
Okay.
I don't disagree. It's weird because I spent a lot of years defending the suit. Like, people were like, "Oh, he's such an awful suit." But I think the one thing people often forget is it was originally only made for a 2-part episode. Like, it wasn't supposed to be more than that he did in every crossover event. And I personally wish he didn't get a new suit for Crisis, right, Connor?
No,
like,
it's all
right? Yeah, I would have gave him a new suit for Crisis. I would have loved that. I get there's a lot of budget going around. They probably couldn't. But that's what I've said, people. And honestly, like, every time he appeared, I was just happy we had Superman in the crossovers. Like, I feel like the suit itself, I wasn't really thinking too much about. I was just happy he was there. Now that he's been in better suits, I can look back at the suit and say, I agree. I don't think it's good. I do very much hate the straps on the back of his back. Boots aren't great. Belt's not great. It is, like, if you just kind of look down, it is kind of plain. Like, it does look kind of just bare in some spots. I might agree with D. As much as I love Tyler Superman, as much as I love him even before Superman and Lois, I might agree with D. Connor, what are you thinking?
I mean, I'm not as negative on the Supergirl suit as a lot of people are. Like, I've ever since those episodes came out, I've seen people like kind of dissing that suit. But I think there's bits on both suits that don't work for their suits, but would work on the other suit. Like, I think the S on the black suit is really cool, but I think not the color, but the actual sort of fabric of the S on the normal Supergirl suit would work better on the black suit. Sort of thing. Like, I think that's a symbol that would work really well there. I agree that the red sort of things holding the cape on the blue suit do not work. I think the blue suit is too dark. Like, I think it should be lighter. I'm not against the boots. I think they're I'm kind of just indifferent to them.
Yeah.
Definitely prefer the black suit to the blue suit, but like, I think I completely agree with what you were saying, Darren, where he should have gotten a suit for Crisis. Like, I think it's so noticeable that Tyler is there in a 5-6-year-old suit, or I guess 4 years at the time suit.
In their new costumes.
Yeah, you got like Kara, Barry, Oliver, like everyone's in these crazy high budget new costumes they got for making everything look more cinematic, and then Tyler's kind of just in that rubbery same suit that is old at that point. I think sorry, go ahead.
No, like, I will say, just story wise, does technically make sense why he didn't, just due to the
Sure,
fact
yeah.
like he was retired at that time.
Yeah,
So
he was
it
retired
would
and
be
just
cool.
dipped
It'd be weird
wherever.
if he just showed up in a brand new costume and be like, "I thought you were retired." Like I get that part of it.
Yeah.
I also think they were getting ready to surprise us with Superman and Lois, where we'd have
Yeah.
a new suit and all that was coming there. Because originally, I mean, Superman and Lois was supposed to be on the same
Yeah,
Earth,
it was
and then
reverse.
but then COVID happened.
I also
So-
like that black suit brings me back a bit of like PTSD because like it was really cool when that same black suit appeared in Superman
And
and Lois.
Superman Lois, yeah.
Of like, oh, it's the same suit, cool. It's like part of the same multiverse or whatever. And then they disconnect it, be like, oh, yeah, I guess not anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, so are we thinking D for the red and blue one, or
if somebody's hanging out there, it's that one.
I kind of agree. I kind of like having something in D, and I think that might have to be it.
It probably is my least favorite live action was. Now that I really think about it. Like I haven't thought about it like that, but yeah, like I don't think I hate any of them more than that one. Well, I don't hate any of them, but I don't think I dislike any of them more than that.
If I gotta pick it in somewhere, that's where it's going.
For sure.
And then the black suit, are we sticking in the same spot, or we put?
I'm thinking C for that.
I put it C because I think for a black suit to do something different, to give it more character, especially in the context of he was supposed to be a person betraying Superman and being a little different and evil. It works.
The John Deegan version.
Yeah.
Yeah, love it. And then I'm pretty sure our last set of suits here, we got the second half of Tyler.
There is a season 2 suit, but I didn't put it in here. I just put the season 1 and the season 3 suit.
Season 2 was the same, just the boots changed.
Yeah.
That was really it.
So Tyler would be the actor that has the most suits out of all the Superman folks, huh? Like he's probably the character with the most suit changes.
I'm counting it right now.
Yeah. Other ones do have changes. I just didn't put them in because they were more kind of subtle-ish.
Sure,
but
yeah,
like I think like the season 1 and season 3 suit for Tyler are like very different to me. Like I think that the symbol changes a lot.
Yeah. It's actually kind of insane how many different versions of the character Tyler has played.
Yeah.
Like obviously he has like the Earth Prime one, he has Superman Lois one, he has like the Bizarro, he has the Deegan. Like he's had several versions of the characters over the years. It's kind of bizarre. I guess I already said that. All right. So the 2020, or I guess the Backflash, my mom made it suit. What are our thoughts on that one?
I'm good with
A to S tier. It's A to S tier. Because you look at the context, it is the Max Fleischer suit brought to life.
Yeah.
It is supposed to be, he throws the line, my mom made it. So right there gives you the cred that it was made by her. Yeah. So it can look like texture. It can look like it's homemade because he literally just said, my mom made it.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with the S tier because I think it's true to the character and I think it's true to the version that it's depicting. But
I'm good with S. I think it's the moment I saw that scene, I was like with the green car and everything, I was like, oh, this is going to be a good show. Like this is the moment we're going to set in that like it's going to be good.
What a great way to start your pirate. Just like, I mean, that whole scene is one of my favorite scenes of the show, just getting to see the quick history of Superman and all his different eras. And again, they didn't use the suit that much, but they made an entire suit just for this episode and then the Backflash episode. Like, that's a lot for less than 20 minutes or so, or like whatever it may be. Like, they put in the work. It looks great.
Superman and Lois is a perfect example of honoring your fans. And I often say it's like a greatest hit Superman because they've taken so many moments and styles of different Superman shows, cartoons, everything, and put it here towards a nice blend of the character at all. Like if you're a Superman fan and you don't like this show, what's wrong with you?
Yeah. Season 1 is one of the most perfect seasons of TV I've ever seen in my life. Like I think it's so good.
That Backflash one is like it feels just like a movie. Like it feels like a Superman movie.
40-minute Superman movie.
It's so good. And then we have the season 1 suit here, which when this photo first came out, I there was a lot of people who did not like this suit. Like they got a lot of hate when it first came out, but I feel like a lot of people kind of come around on it a little bit.
It's a little brighter in the show than it looks here, but I still think it's a little dark.
Yeah.
The season 1 suit I put as just probably a B. And it's a lot of it's because the symbol. It's the first time we've really got a flat symbol in a long time. Yeah. It looks almost like it's a t-shirt iron on.
It does a little bit, yeah.
And I hate saying that, but I think the cape is good. The season 1 boots look comfortable, but they're very much looking like shoes, like high top shoes almost. Because they are very low and they're very different looking. they look comfortable. Like if you're gonna wear it, like I agree, like I'd wear it, but they don't really look like boots. Like I said, like they look like snow boots, like some of the snow boots my kids have.
Sure, yeah.
I love the belt though.
Belt is great, yeah. Very New 52.
So, and like in the show, if you watch the show in order, it looks like the suit was padded bigger.
Yes. Yeah.
In the beginning, and then as the season goes on, it got smaller. And I wonder if that had to do with COVID, with training, with stunt work or whatever. Like, because as the first season goes on, the suit gets a little smaller.
Yeah,
but it's a B to me though.
I think it's like just like a benefit of getting to hear people's feedback, like having your back half not completely done by the time the suit came out and like the first episode aired and stuff like that. So having it to be like, hey, people think it looks a little too buff, and they could be like, all right, take it down a little, and like you're 100% right. Like throughout the season, like, you could see it get a little smaller. I think it fits Tyler a bit. And the thing is, like, Tyler does not need padding. Like Tyler is huge. He looks absolutely jacked. He doesn't need padding in his suit. And I think they learned that come season 3. Like I think that season 3, I think it looks better on him. Like it doesn't look like it looks more real, which I say. So where would we kind of put these two suits here? Because they're not that different. Like I feel like they're
season 3 I put as an A.
I was going to say the reason I put one as a B is because I think Tree is better, and I'd put Tree in an A.
I like the season 3 suit. I like the blue body suit. I think it works better. The material works better for it. The boots work a little bit better. They're a little smaller, but they look like boots. And the symbol is back to being what do you call it? It's back to being like 3-dimensional. It's not super like rubbery popping like some of them have been, but it's back to being more than just looking like it's ironed on.
Yeah,
6 sure.
So
this first one was B, you guys said?
Yeah. So season 1 is B. Yep. And yep.
All right, gotcha. Love it. I guess we already know the question that we're not getting a new suit next season, but do we think we're getting like a Superboy suit next season, or do you think we're stuck with what we got right now?
I would hope that we would get some sort of change.
Got the 90s Superboy suit already.
Because we got the Superboy suit for John when he was from Earth 2.
Yeah.
And then we got like a very kind of callback to Superman, American Alien style for
with the goggles
Jordan. With the goggles, I think Jordan should get a proper Superboy suit, even if it's just going back and honors Tom and does like a jacket, but with the symbol and looks kind of But think about John Kent, Superboy in the comics when he came out. And he had like a hoodie jacket and like the ripped jeans in Rebirth. If they did a leathery jacket look kind of like that, I think it would be pretty awesome to give him something, without going into a full suit mode.
Yeah. I agree. There's something before the end, like to kind
of
just give an idea where he's going as a character.
I mean, I was hoping that we would get before the show ended a proper new steel suit with a a crest on it and the cape.
Yeah,
I'm hoping they do something with him. I'm hoping.
I think just based off of Doomsday, they probably will. I feel like you can't finally be doing that storyline without digging into Steel a little bit more.
I think like however they bring it back, if Clark's dead when they come back or whatever. Or not, like I think John, just because of the journey they've been on to just solidify their friendship and honor, he should have the S on his steel suit, and he should have a cape. I mean, that's not hard to do. Like, okay, it's not hard to do.
I even had the idea, like, if you don't have the budget to make an entire new suit or whatever it may be, like, even like the idea where, like, maybe like after they save the day in the final episode, like a child like draws a picture or whatever and it hands it the steel, and it has like it's like a kid's drawing of the Superman's or of his steel suit with the logo and the cape, and like they have like a look to each other, and be like, oh yeah, to like imply that he will get the stuff or whatever if they can't afford to actually do it, but we'll see. And then lastly here, our last one here, we got David Cornsweat. Now I feel like we should say right off the bat that this is the only photo that we have of David Cornsweat.
It's not going to look like this.
Yes,
there's like, clearly things here that are going to look different when we have a real proper look at the costume.
We can properly judge this suit when it comes out, when we have something to base it off of. But just off of this photo, and Connor, we talked about this 2 weeks ago, I think is when we had our kind of discussion on it. Kind of want to start with Tyler. Like, what was your like original reaction to this? Because the internet has had their opinions. They've said what they want to say, but like, how are you currently on it?
What's funny was the day that it dropped, I had to leave work and go pick up my son from school because he was sick. And I was just sitting there, my phone dings, and I look at it, and I only respond like I have threads so that I get notifications when James Gunn actually posts.
Cool.
So if it doesn't come from Gunn, then I don't pay attention to it.
Sure.
So the fact that he posted, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. I'm like, this is the photo, and I'm looking at it, and then I call my son and we kind of look at it, and we're talking. And I was like, I was happy, but not super excited. I think I would have liked I would have liked something a little bit more like going back to like the Brandon photo reveal where he's like very much in the position we see. But looking at this, I rank it in a B right now because I like the boots. Okay, and I like the way the cape's going. I like the symbol. I wish it was a little bit more S, but I like the symbol. Mm-hmm. It looks like it's 3D puffy, but not like rubbery. Like it looks like it's like a cloth material on there that pops out, but it's not blended into the material. I am surprised there's the collar, but I'm not opposed to the collar. Like it's not a break for me. It's a different look. It looks like the trunks are there. I think it's interesting that we're seeing like he has battle damage, like dirt and debris on the suit. And I guess my biggest reaction was the idea that everything that Gunn had done seemed very like strict, perfect comic booky.
It did.
From the casting, from the aesthetic to the casting, where it looked like the people were just walking off the page.
Yeah.
Everything and looked like it was going that way. So for this to be a suit, I was like, huh. But then I thought, well, I always go back to why was the film originally Superman Legacy before he just decided to call it Superman?
Yeah.
And in my head, I think, well, they're kind of pulling elements from different suits and different times of the character. Yeah. And that to me is legacy. So it makes me aware of this, when this was designed, where were we in the process? Costumes take time, but I'm not against it. Like I'm interested in how the cape attaches and how that looks. So I'm not against the suit, but I am curious to see it a little bit in action and see him standing up, and how that looks on him and how it moves. And, I hope we get a really good shirt rip somehow. Like,
yeah,
because like we got a good one at Cavill at the end. That's the only shirt rip he did. I would like to see a really good, another one. There's a big moment, but this suit, like, how will that look? Because it looks more almost like a jacket. But I'm curious. So
I think there's a lot in this suit I really, really, really like, and there's a lot I really, really, really don't. And I think it's just I understand that the reason why the picture they went with is because it's trying to convey a story. He's trying to already convey what sort of Superman this is, what sort of Clark Kent this is. But, like the battle damage, he's putting on his boots again, he's going back to work or whatever. Like, that's the story they're going for. But I think for your very, very, very first reveal, you shouldn't be showing an image that is the character sitting down, kind of hunched over with dirt all over his suit and like in dark lighting. It should be something far more akin to the Brandon Routh reveal or even the Tyler Hoechlin reveal or something like that. Like, I think this doesn't give off an amazing first impression of the suit. I think it requires a lot of looking in depth into the picture. Like, if you're somebody who doesn't really care a whole lot about this stuff, you just scroll past the picture. What's your first impression going to be? Are you going to look into it a little bit more, or are you going to scroll past it? And I think it's the boots and the lower sort of color looks great. I think the cape is really interesting. There's some stuff here that doesn't really mesh me. I also think that the crest that they originally showed, like the lighting on that crest and everything and just the design on it, it feels so different to me than what this image here conveys. So I don't know.
I agree. I think if they had darkened it and like made it more shadow towards more of a tease, I think would have kind of worked better.
Yeah.
To where we weren't really seeing his full body. We just saw outlines and silhouettes and looked like he was sitting in like a room, like he was getting up or something, or it was just more of a tease shot. But then for this to be your big reveal, because even I feel like have his eyes open, have him smiling a little bit,
Yeah,
maybe,
exactly.
because he looks like just almost like he was. It looks almost like they're, hey, Dave, we're about to film. Go ahead and get your boots back on. And he's like, okay. And then someone snapped a photo and was like,
Yeah.
ha, all right, this is what we're gonna
Gotcha.
Yeah, exactly. You know,
I honestly love in concept. Like, I love the idea of just a man doing his job. Like, a man, he's just had a really bad day, but there's aliens attacking, so he's like, I gotta go back out there and save every last one again. Like, I think in concept, it's great. I agree with you, Connor. I think as your first look, though, not a great choice, especially in such a terrible fandom that is going to be nitpicking
Gonna tear
every
it apart.
single thing you do, and that's exactly what they did. They're scrolling in, they're looking at the things. They're gonna like. I don't think as a filmmaker you should feel the need to play things safe because you know how people will react. I don't think that's how filmmaking should go. But I think in a scenario like this, you do need to, especially with the first one, the first movie in this, what you want to be a long, 10-year long at least franchise. You got to play it safe. You have that first one. Play by their rules in a sense, and
give them what they want.
Exactly.
I would have I would have done a standing shot. Actually, I would have loved a shot where it's like Clark holding Lois in the sky or something like that. I think, or just him flying in the
Recreate
sky.
a comic cover.
Yeah. It's
or if it had been just him flying straight at us, so we just kind of see like the face, the cape floating, and then like part of the chest, and we can't see the rest, and and we're like, oh, it's just a tease,
That would have been awesome.
Would
have built the excitement.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And not that this doesn't excite me, but like I said, my biggest not takeaway was just kind of like, oh, for someone who's gone so super classic, this is a very interesting choice.
Yeah.
It's very modernish, way more modern than I would have anticipated, just based off of every single thing he's been sharing about the film up to this point.
Exactly.
That'd be interesting. So as far as where do you rank it? Because I honestly don't even know, just looking at it alone.
I put it as B.
Yeah, I think B, because like I like a lot, I hate a lot.
Middle of the road. Okay.
Yeah, like I think it's kind of in the middle of the road. There's a lot I'm going for, like Connor said, stuff I'm not sure on yet because it's like crunched up, but I still think it works. I mean, so yeah, I'm good with a B for right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's definitely like I have no like real issues with the suit itself. Again, like I assume once we get some other photos, I actually think in motion it'll look really good. Like I think once we actually have a trailer and flying through the sky, I think it'll look a lot better than just him kind of sitting there and like crouching inside the corner. So now that we have them all here, is there any that you guys would want to move, or are you pretty happy with where we put everybody?
I think bring that bottom Tyler Ackland one right up to S. Take that Supergirl suit while riding that.
Well, let's
that changed quickly. I'm happy where they are. I think, like I said, like you got to be a little nitpicky when there's so many similarities between things.
Sure.
But there's nothing on here that I like am disgusted and hate. I do not, like I said, I do not really like the bottom one, but it's still Superman. Like it still feels like Superman. Like he has in the Supergirl shirt rip scene is my all-time favorite shirt rip. Because it's him running down that alley and just like ripping the tie off. Yeah. It's so dramatic. It's just that trailer of him being in Supergirl season 2. It gave me goosebumps. You know what I'm saying? Like I was excited.
So good.
It felt like Superman. So I feel like he's always brought the character, but that suit just wasn't helping him. And luckily he got, redeemed. So
I agree.
Completely agree.
People hate on like Tyler prior to Superman Lois. I was like, go rewatch his scenes. Like he always
great. Like, he gets it.
So we did a Tyler kind of rewatch building up to Superman Lois's premiere. And the thing you have to account for is he was a guest.
Yeah.
It wasn't his show. So Supergirl had to do good because it's her show. But we all wanted him to do great. But he always had to play a back seat because he was this guest. He couldn't outshine Barry on his show. Couldn't outshine Oliver. Couldn't outshine Kara.
Yeah. It's not called Supergirl and Superman. It's called Supergirl.
Yeah. So it was like, oh, he's here for a little bit to help out. But he couldn't outshine. And then when he kept popping up, you want him to do more. But they're like, we can't have him outshine the, and out star the characters.
Yeah.
So when he gets his own show, he's like, here I am. Yeah. Here it goes. So
kills it.
Completely agree.
Completely also agree. And with that, I think that leads us to the end of our episode. I want to give a big thanks to Tyler for being here. Thank you for hanging out with us for about 2 hours and giving us all your Superman knowledge.
Hey, I appreciate it, man. You guys, thank you. I'm glad we were able to start a little bit later. Just like I said, I wasn't sure if I could make it because of work sometimes runs late for work. So, but no, thank you for inviting me. I was really excited to get the invite and glad to come here and hang out and talk Superman.
Of course. I mean, obviously, you talk a lot about Superman. You have a lot of things that you're doing. Anything that you would like to shout out or like promo, just send people over here onto your side?
Just check out Krypton Report. You can find us anywhere like Apple Podcasts, YouTube. We are going to start. One of the things we're plugging is June 15th at 9 Eastern. We're basically going to start Saturday morning cartoons where we're going to watch live an episode of Superman the Animated Series.
Oh, cool.
We chose that because a lot of people have it. It's streaming on Max. We actually came up with this idea at the end of our Justice League Action rewatch, but we wanted to find something that more people have access to. So it'll be kind of a let's all grab our cereal, grab our coffee, sync it up and let's watch it together kind of thing. So that's something we're gonna be working on. It'll be streaming on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube is the plan. So
hell yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. Connor, is there anything that you want to plug today?
It's YouTube as always. Eggs over here.
Go do that. Do that. And then me, same as always, we have our TV podcast coming out Monday this week. We're talking about my adventures with Superman this week, along with the newest episode of Doctor Who, and then Pipeline should be back next Thursday, like always. And yeah, without further ado, I will see you guys on the flip side. Bye bye.